Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Hello.
Hello.
Kim's here too. My wife. She can't see. You can't see her because if I plug in this camera too, then I can't access my external hard drive. Because the cool thing about the Mac laptops is they only have like a handful of plugs. But yeah, we're here. Hello. We're working on comics tonight. Gonna be doing a fair bit, and taking some questions from the chat if you got any. Well, if you were part of the Discord challenge on the Patreon, we're not going to be judging that tonight, as you can tell. We're going to be doing that a little bit later because there's only a few entries for this challenge right now. So we're just gonna wait till right at the very end of the month, and then we're just gonna go live and review everybody's who's submitted. It was a big challenge though.
Yeah, the idea was that there was going to be, typically there's some overachievers, but
Yeah.
I feel like we have to usually break it up into 2 videos. So this time we didn't really need to do that. And
yeah, it's a little bit of an intimidating one because it was 4 characters total.
what's
So
4? Wow, okay.
it is a lot. But I did say you could go as sketchy as you wanted to because it was just ideas.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's why we're doing that. That's why we're doing this today, and we'll do that later. But yeah, so this comic page here is the one I started on the last stream that we did comic work on. And since then, I've drawn out the rest of this giant statue. And now I'm going to be doing all the ornamental detail on the statues surrounding the frame of this panel. And then on the bottom here, there's the little characters. You can see them. So they're very tiny. This is a humongous page. I decided if it's the first time you see me work on this, or first time you've seen this comic, I've been working on this here and there for a while, but not very seriously until like right now. So every page is pretty intensively detailed. I wanted to see what I could do with a short story execution wise, like how far could I push that render style of inking. So that's kind of what this is. It's just me trying to see how far I can go in that direction and make it something that's still doable, because it's a lot of work. But yeah, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'll say hello. But yeah, in the meantime, I'll just be working on this. And if you want to see more of these things, you want to look back at past process of comics, see any of my process whatsoever, you can go and sign up for my Patreon. It's just patreon.com/Dave Raposa. And I have tons of stuff on there, like literally hundreds of hours of material.
That's also where we're doing the challenge. It's the Discord.
Yep.
Via the Patreon. But for someone who was asking, I saw that in here. And then I'll be in the chat. I'll answer as many questions as I can.
Yeah, I mean, even if Kim doesn't hang out here with me the whole time, she'll still be in the chat.
Yeah, and I'm pretty good at answering most of the questions, except for if it's like, what brush do you use? Or like, what inspires you?
Yeah.
Because that's very personal, obviously. But general questions I can answer.
Okay, let's get into all of these little details now. My goodness. Trying to figure out what do I need to do for this. Yeah, I think I just need to do this side first. Yeah, let's do that.
Are you going to turn off the camera?
Yeah, I'll just have my voice on there just so otherwise you'll see the top of my head the whole time. But I'll leave the mic on since you're here.
Okay, so you can talk to me.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read you questions?
Sure.
Okay. Someone said that you look so young. This was the first time they were seeing you. Zangatai?
I look so young?
Yeah, they said, how old is he? 31? 32? And I said, he's 30 frickin' 5. And he said, and Zangatai said, he's so good for his age. For how long has Dave been drawing? Oh man, since you were, I mean, drawing forever, but working professionally since you were 19?
Yeah, I mean, how long have I been drawing is, you know, all of that's kind of, I don't know. I don't know what you'd say that.
Since
like,
you were a kid.
Since I was as little as possible. I was actually telling Kim, I don't know, like yesterday, we were talking about how one of my like early childhood memories is this guy coming to our house when I was a kid, like to specifically see my sister because she was really good at art.
And she's also 10 years older than you.
Yeah, and it was this guy from like a cartoonist school or something. I forget. It was either that or it was like some weird like mail-in art thing. And he was there to kind of like see what kind of talent she had. And then I remember specifically him looking at like all of our work, like me, my brother, and my sister, and being like, "Oh, you guys are so talented," and whatever. But I remember that because like I don't know who this dude was. I don't know what the significance of this was. But I remember thinking like, "Oh, that's cool. Like maybe I'm actually good at this. Like maybe like there's something."
But you were little.
Yeah, so I think I always had like an inclination to draw since I was a little kid, but I never took it seriously until I was like 19. And then I started working. Well, actually, that's not true. That's when I took my studying seriously. I was taking art seriously when I was 16, 17. I started working on video game forums, designing characters for people's RPGs that were in RPG Maker, specifically the gaming world forums, if anybody knows what that is. And I kind of got an interest in like freelance from that. I think that's where that started, or at least having some form of a working relationship, even though I wasn't getting paid for it. And from there, I took on a few small jobs. My first job was working for the band Power Glove, not the what would you call them? Electronic music dudes. But I did end up working for them too. But specifically when I was about 16, 17, I worked for Power Glove, working on their first album cover, Total Pwnage, which at this point is a very cringy thing to say out loud. But back then it was still relative internet slang. But yeah, that was my first.
It's funny to hear that out loud and not just read it.
Yeah, that was my first job, and they paid me a couple $100 or something. I don't remember what I charged them. And then my big one was I was 18, or maybe I was 19. I don't know.
I think you were 18.
I was still in high school, and I got work.
Well, you definitely weren't 19
right.
in high school.
Yeah, I was trying to remember like a little, marker of where I was. But yeah, I worked for this director designing storyboards for the Kill Switch Engage music video Holy Diver. And that was my first like step into the real art design world of freelance. And then from that point on, I took my work pretty seriously and studied a lot, and I've been doing it ever since. So, I'm 35 now. Technically got my first break when I was 16, so it's been a long time.
Yeah, almost 20 years. But yeah, since you started working seriously, I would say 19. I would say 16 years at least, 17.
Yeah.
Gabe said, "Oi, this the lad, the one that made Steve the Lich." And somebody else asked more Steve Lichman books to come.
Absolutely. We're working on a bunch of Steve stuff, so there will be some form of news in the future about that. I don't know when. I don't know how, but
you don't know what.
It's coming. It is happening. Stuff has been happening for a long time. Pretty much ever since the second book came out, we've been doing Steve stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Scunch asked, how many Starville mini stories are you planning to make?
At the current place I'm at, I have about, 3 or 4 that are like have some form of an outline. But I would say this one and another one is really the ones that are like good to go. Like I have this one clearly is already like thumbnailed and I've already written it and everything. But the other one is mostly fleshed out. I just need to get it started after this one. But I want to do these just to have a better grasp of what I want to do style-wise, because committing to a giant book, like a giant Starvale story, or really any story, and not having the style down completely, it's just a daunting thing. And it was easy to do that with something like Steve Lichman because the style didn't really matter that much. It could look really bad and it would still work because it's funny. And you can get away with bad artwork and a funny comic because that plays into the humor. But with this, I want it to look cool. So I'm trying to find the best way to do that. And I think these short stories where I don't have to commit like a ludicrous amount of time, those are better for that. Even though I am spending a lot of time on this
I
one.
know, I was just going to say it's
Which
ironic.
I could tell because Kim started laughing
I
when I said that.
Gabe said he's the one that has a special ball brush. It's a penis brush. Not it's a penis and balls. If you want to be
My brush?
right,
I think it's just a penis.
just a penis, no balls.
It's a brush I made like a long time ago.
No balls, just a penis.
Probably like over 10 years ago at this point.
Chris Ferguson asks Dave, for concept art, do you think painting is a must skill, or can you get by on just good line work?
I think there's a decent amount of people that get by on just good line work.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that in like a lot of the Overwatch artwork. And God, I mean, there's got to be a bunch of examples of it, but that's the one that comes to mind. Is a few of the Blizzard artists have that look, and maybe some people at Riot have it too. But you can for sure do that. You can get into concept art with line work. I think it helps to be able to paint just because you can do more, but it's not like a necessity, I don't think.
A lot of times they're just looking for quick ideas, aren't they?
Yeah, like concept artists are more about generating ideas anyway.
What program are you using?
This
Alan
is Clip
F.
Studio.
Alan F. asks, Clip Studio.
Yeah, Clip Studio is way better for inking than Photoshop in my opinion. I think the brush engine is more intuitive, so I use it for all of my comic work.
That's it. That's the answer.
What?
It just sounded like your sentence wasn't over. He ain't gonna email you says, do you think studying methods that focus on 2D shadow shapes, like the sight size method, are useful, or would you recommend focusing more on 3D forms, similar to the dynamic sketching method?
It depends on you, I guess, because I tend to gravitate towards the forms one. Like I think I think more in form than I do in line. Just maybe that's because I came up kind of painting, so that's just how my mind is oriented. Like I can do both, but I think it's just a little bit easier for me to sketch around in Krita the way I've been. If you've followed any of the stuff I've done in Krita, or if you've seen any of the past like Patreon posts I've done sharing that part of the process, it's like I do a lot of gestural stuff and form in that program, and then I'll clean it up and turn it into line work in Clip Studio. But I start in Krita because I like the way you can imply forms really quickly and generate like
Big
nice shapes. And also like it's like the way that the chrome brushes in that program can quickly pull out like volume and something. It's really nice. But yeah, that's how I think. So I think that's just my personal approach.
Hannah Smash says, been so long since I've seen a stream. I've missed watching your process.
Thanks. We're doing these every Thursday.
Yeah, if you're part of the
So-
Patreon, typically, the ones that Dave is just working, he's been sharing them on Twitter as well. But for the Patreon specifically, we're definitely doing it. You
Yeah,
know,
there's a ton of streams that have just been behind Patreon for years.
Yeah, for a couple years now, huh?
Well, not like, I guess not like straight up streaming, but there's
You have a lot of video.
a decent
lot
amount of
content.
videos.
Riley says, I wish I was poning art at this point. Why do I even read Riley's? He always makes me like cringe and laugh at the same time. But I still feel like art is poning me. So there's that.
Are you happy, Riley? You read it.
I know. Just trying to make everyone feel, included. Do you live in a garage? Sorry. Artisto. Oh, nope. That says artist of the unreal.
What did Artisto say?
Artist of the unreal. Artisto says, hello, Maestro
What's
Raposa. Hope you are well. Do you have a mentorship program?
No, the best thing that we got for Patreon that we're gonna get back into in the new year is the portfolio reviews. So the portfolio review is just kind of selecting 4 portfolios from all the submissions that we get on the Discord portfolio channel, and then just going over them, doing paint overs and whatnot. But no intensive mentorships. But I do have, like I said before, I literally have probably hundreds, not probably, I do have 100+ hours of content on the Patreon. It's $5 for the Patreon, and you can just get access to all that at once, every post for the past couple of years.
And good for you for asking, because I think, people are afraid of asking because they're like, oh, they're just going to say no. And yeah, Dave said no, but you wouldn't know unless you asked.
Yeah.
So I think that's like, it's always good to get yourself out there and ask. And I'm sorry I read your name as Artisto. Well, here we go. Asias Perez is also on here. So we already know that I can't read usernames. He says, what up, Dave Raposa, Kim, and the Piglets? What up?
Yeah, what's that, pig fan?
Yeah, how's your job going? Fuzzy Whisper says that Power Glove Total Ponage cover is rad. Just looked it up.
Oh yeah, that whole era of Power Glove is really good. All their like video game covers were amazing. I reached out to them to work for them, I guess. I don't think they contacted me. I was already a fan. I think I was very confident as like a teenager. So
you were borderline arrogant as a teenager. Let's just put it that way.
That's true. But
it served you well.
Yeah, like I would just do art for people that didn't ask for it, and I'd be like, you should hire me to work for you, because I would love to do that. Like I just would reach out to people I wanted to work for with artwork I did for them already. That's how I started working with like Kavinsky when I worked for him. Was I just sent him an image and he put it up on his MySpace, and he's like, I really like that. Do you want to do my album cover? And I was like, yes, I do.
Nice.
And then we just were kind of friends for a while, and I just was so bad at art that I couldn't do it. He was so cool that I couldn't do it. I just bullshit him, and I was like, yeah, I'm working on it. And that was like one of my first jobs. And then the other one was like Power Glove, and that actually went.
That's so funny. Let's see. A couple people, Yo-Yo asked animated series about Steve Lichtman. And then someone said, Rafa said he's going to sleep. Good night. Stas says, Dave, are you planning on returning to Black Witch? And will you keep that oily, what? I don't know what this is.
Like an oil style?
Yeah, I guess so, style, or simplify it.
I would like to do a version. Well, the way that I'm working in Krita now, like if you saw my latest like Darkstalkers image that I've been working on, that would probably be kind of similar to what I would do for Black Witch, but Black Witch would just have more muted tones and things. But I already wrote Black Witch. Like I know what it is. I have like multiple notebooks filled with ideas for that story, and I just kind of need to do everything on the list of things that I have left. I have so many things.
I was like, I told Dave, okay, let's make a list. Maybe that'll feel better because there's just too many open loops right now. Maybe it'll feel better to see on a piece of paper. And then we did. And he said that made me feel worse. Now I see how much I actually have to do. And then he had like a super productive, super busy like week. And I said, okay, now let's look at the list again. You can cross some stuff out. It'll feel so good. And he crossed out 2 things. And he said, I feel terrible. So that's my advice to you. Make a list. Jack asks, Jack Zierhut. He says, I remember using that penis brush in art school. I had no idea at the time it was a penis brush. But by the time I expanded it while live streaming with other classmates, it was too late. Amazing.
Sorry.
That's so... You should have done your research.
I feel like a common story from that brushback existing was that people just kind of happened upon it one day. And they were like, oh. The scariest one was when people were like, is that your penis?
Yeah, like
and I was
really
like, I am not a maniac. I did not just put my penis in there and goes like, yeah.
Here you go, guys.
Here it is. It's me. Like, I'm not out of my mind.
No.
I wish I did that. I wish I was...
You wish you thought of something that
psycho.
Terrible?
Yeah, I wish I was just a lunatic. Like, my ego's so big, I just put my penis in all my brush pens.
I know. Surprise. Alex says, hey Dave, have you taken any online courses for drawing, and or could you recommend one?
I never have. I couldn't recommend any just because I'd be recommending it based off of nothing, really. Like, I haven't taken them, and I don't know anybody who does take those.
A lot of that stuff wasn't available when you were learning.
No.
The same way it is now.
I think there's probably a decent amount out there that are good at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I learned from like a couple Gumroad things here and there back in the day, but I don't really think I could recommend anything as like a one-stop shop kind of like
everything.
Yeah.
Your holy grail.
Some helpful thing. I just studied fundamentals on my own and kind of looked at what other people did to get better, and that's pretty much how I form my general schedule for studying. It was around things that I thought other people did to improve, you know, life painting and anatomy and all the other fundamentals. It's like I just did that every day for hours and hoped that I was doing something right. I will say this, doing something that is kind of right is better than doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know what I was doing, but I figured as long as I was moving in the general direction of what feels good or what seems right, then I'll figure it out along the way. And that's what happened. But for the longest time, people were like, you're studying wrong. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And I just kept doing it anyway, and, you know.
You know what that feels like to me?
What?
It's the same thing as, like, when I was younger, my mom would ask me, do you know how to eat that? And I would be like, yeah, you put it in your mouth and you eat it. Like, what is that question? But it'd be like a fruit that I had never had before, you know?
Right.
I just didn't understand that question. What do you mean?
Yeah, you're like, I'm doing the thing.
I'm eating it.
How much more complicated could this be?
It's in my mouth. I'm studying. What do you mean I'm studying wrong?
Yeah, I drew naked people for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing it.
Chris Ferguson said, this is the first stream I've been able to catch live, but this has become my favorite podcast to draw along with. The last stream with Dan was hilarious, by the way.
Thanks.
Hilarious. Mental Break says hi. Asia Espadez is clowning me for saying artista. Oil. Nope, that says Ollie. Sorry, I should probably just put glasses on. Ollie Ward. Maybe I should make my text really big on my screen.
You should.
Ollie Ward Comics says, thanks for making Glitchman one of the best comics ever made in my correct opinion. Can't wait for volume 3. That's very sweet.
Well, thank you.
Fuzzy says, FYI, Dave will hold a grudge against you unless you refer to him as Your Excellency.
It's true.
Riley says, if I lived in a garage, I would be way better at karate.
I gotta say, we can get into it a little bit. Kim and I were just getting high and going on TikTok lives and just waiting for people who are like playing music in their room or something.
Or just doing anything, just like hanging out on a live stream.
And all you have to do is innocently ask them if it's okay. So it goes one of two ways.
If they're
in their garage, you have to ask them, "Is that your bedroom?" And if they're in their bedroom, you gotta go, "Is that your garage?"
Yeah. Like,
and
how
it's just a subtle enough insult that it makes people get real mad.
But
and I know we're trolling people, but
it's so
we
funny
couldn't
when
stop.
you're like out of your mind, right?
It was very fun.
Well, the best part, my favorite one was at the very end. I think I couldn't breathe when that guy was like, he was like obviously in a basement, and he was doing something. He wasn't. I don't know. He kind of just seemed like he was just like
The guy drumming?
No, that one guy. And I said,
"Oh yeah,
is that your man cave?" And he went, I guess you could call it that. I get a lot of, but I know, and I, no, not really. And then I went, oh, so it's more like a garage. Like, it clearly wasn't a garage, but I don't know why that's so hilarious.
like
so
it shouldn't be funny
But
until
it's
people react to it and
so-
they go like, "You think I live in a fucking garage?"
No, that one guy.
You're like, "Yes."
When he said, "Why is your bed in your garage?"
I think it's
And
innocent
he
enough
said,
where it's not
"You
that.
mean my room?" He got so mad.
Yeah, we were way too fucked up for that.
It's still funny though, and I'm totally sober right now, so I think it's hilarious. David Elliott said, "Hey Dave, you got me into painting when I was 16 with a night painting, but it cut off. But to cut it short, working professionally now. But I have some wrist issues from drawing painting a lot. Any suggestions?"
Yeah, actually, just make sure that you stop or just take a break every like half hour or so. Even every hour if half hour is too frequent. Just something. And do stretches. I can show you on the camera right here real quick. If you see me here, I just put my hand out like this, and then I pull my fingers back with my arm outstretched, and then you do every individual finger one by one like that.
Wouldn't it be funny if you were just standing up doing stretches? Like if you're like, "Here, let me show you real quick."
And then I do this, like bend it down like this, put my thumb here, and do that with my arm outstretched.
Have you ever seen Thai dancing?
Yeah.
That's the type of stretches that they do.
And that helps a lot. It really does.
Do you know that?
No. Well, I know that that's how they like end up being able to bend their hands in
Like almost
crazy
completely
ways.
backwards, yeah.
But that's like enough of a break for me where I don't end up having pain.
And also a loose grip on your, not loose, but not a tight grip, right?
Yeah, you don't
That's a
want to
big
do
one.
death grip on your pen.
Yeah. Maybe work on that as well. And you know, anti-inflammatory things in your diet. Make sure you're not eating like foods that are going to make any type of inflammatory issues worse. This is coming from a nurse, by the way, not just like a not just like an internet. I'm not just trolling you asking you if you live in a garage. That's like a legit thing. Anzar Ahmed says, how do you work in tight deadlines?
How? In what sense? I guess, like, is it a question of how do I take on the pressure? How do I schedule myself?
Probably a little bit of all of that. I feel like you do really well under pressure, and you just stick to a strict schedule because you have 2 kids. There's also lots of moving projects, lots of things that you have to juggle, so you kind of just have to stick to a very strict schedule.
Yeah, I tend to be aware of everything I'm doing at the same time, like how many projects do I have ongoing? What's all happening? Can I fit something in there? Because I generally know how long something will take me. So if somebody asks for a single character versus a kind of montage painting versus, 2-3 characters, I don't know. Each one of those things is going to take a certain duration of time. If it's like a creature or just something I'm really quick with, then I know that I could take on more of those. It's dependent totally on what it is, but I get an estimate in my head of how long I think that'll take, and I'll actually tack on a couple days to that estimate in my head, just because you never know what's going to happen. Kids could get sick, something could go wrong. You have to take that into account, and then I just tell them how long it's going to take me realistically. I try not to BS anybody and make believe I can do something faster than I can. I try to give them a realistic estimate of time of how long something should take me.
If you deliver faster.
Yeah, but if there's a thing where they're like, we need something within this time, do you think you could squeeze us into your schedule right now? I'll try and do that, and if I can do those, then I'll work later at night or something on the work. But I do pretty well on tight deadlines. Like Kim was saying, I don't have a problem with pressure when it comes to work. I always deliver by the deadlines, and rarely ever
you're
late
also
on
comfortable
anything.
with saying no if you don't feel like you can,
Yeah.
and having someone lined up for a recommendation. I think the other thing is you haven't had to do that in such a long time.
Yeah.
You had a steady job for a while, which is really nice. You haven't had to work on anything real short notice or anything.
Yeah, most of the jobs that I do, they're jobs that I really want to do. If it's outside of the job that I have currently, which is I'm working for Other Side Entertainment. I'm working on Warren Spector's new game, and I've been working on that for a little over a year and a half now. So any other kind of freelance projects or things like this that I do, I'm doing because I just want to do them.
Asias Perez says, job is doing great. Thanks for asking. You are very welcome. Very happy for you.
Yeah, seriously.
Zach had said, my brain might be a potato, but did Kim also do art? I mean, have you seen our Mousetrap live streams? You be the judge.
Have you seen her Diddy Kong that she drew? I posted that up on Twitter.
That's because I don't know really what you expected. You guys should have seen the other ones that I did. I did Mario, Super Mario, from memory, and it was so good. But Dave didn't, it wasn't funny enough to post. It was too good. That's what he told me. He said, babe, this is so good. Just kidding. We don't call each other babe. That's disgusting. Let's see. That's awesome, Dave. I doubt I would have been that confident as a teenage artist.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't
I feel like it's a completely different world because the world that you were living in as a teenager, the real world, was much scarier than approaching an artist and asking for a job. The things that you've experienced as a kid, and
Yeah, I guess so. And I just didn't think it was that big a deal. I was never uncomfortable talking to people.
I also think you probably had some head injuries. And so you had a little bit of that fearlessness.
Yes, before the age of 13, I was knocked out 3 times.
Yeah, 100%. You had some of that
I was hit by 3 cars.
Yes.
Too.
So.
And I wasn't.
Those are separate incidences
from
the knockouts.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't knocked out by the cars. I've been hit by multiple cars, and I've been knocked unconscious multiple times.
So
So
there's
that's
a little
probably
bit of
why
a-
I have an unjustified arrogance.
Well, you're
Or I
not
did.
arrogant.
No.
You're not arrogant anymore. It's
It
very
is
much
funny to say
paired with
that,
like
though.
being a teenager and having that like fearlessness and that confidence that comes with it. No,
Yeah.
you're not that person anymore. You're not like you still, you know, have fearlessness, but you're not arrogant or anything. Mr. Ken says, "Are all the jobs that you did 10 plus years ago still available to you, or has the industry changed?"
A lot of it has gone away. Like, I mean, 10 plus years ago, I was working on stuff like Dragon Magazine. Like, I don't know if that still exists, if that's still a D&D thing that people do art for. I worked on War Machine. That was like a tabletop RPG game. I don't know if that's still around. I did, like, as far as regular jobs go, like Legend of the regular kind of job that you get hired for every once in a while, and every artist did that, and then they kind of went away.
You worked for Applebot?
Yeah, Applebot. Yeah, I think like a couple of the marketing agencies that I worked for, they didn't go away, but what ends up happening is people that you knew who worked in a place that you were kind of just used to working for, they'll leave the job. And when people leave the job and somebody new comes in, they don't just hand over everybody they worked for.
Yeah.
So this person who comes into the job now is looking for artists that are like fresh artists that they know or that they like. So that changes everything. And then I might end up following the person who was at that other company I worked for over to the new place. And then they'll bring me on for projects. And that's kind of how it goes. That happens with like video game studios. Like I worked on Paragon for Epic Games. It was like the MOBA game they did. I think that's what it would be called before Fortnite. And Fortnite came out like right after that, and Paragon just went away. But the art director that I worked with on Paragon ended up going to another company, and they hired me to do concept art just like, I don't know, sometime last year, the beginning of last year. So that sort of thing happens a lot.
Yeah. Zenobodies says, "What software and drawing tablet do you use?"
Wacom Cintiq Pro 32, and I'm using Clip Studio.
And you don't recommend the Wacom?
Yeah, I don't recommend
Not
this
this one.
Wacom right now.
Yeah, that one that you're using.
Maybe the new one's good. I don't know.
Marco Bucci here on YouTube is a great place to start painting for fundamentals. Oh, okay. Brendan Stepik. I mean, it seems to have worked out. I'm guessing with you. I'm kind of like lagging on some of these reading. I did joke with Dave that I'm not going to do it now because I'm talking about it, but that I would be his background music. And I would just try to sing all the songs that I don't know. And you guys know his playlist is like all pumped up music, like 80s action music. So
Well, what's on right now is like that.
is it?
Well, it's not. It's like John Carpenter type music.
Yeah, I'd be singing that, right? I would just look up the lyrics at least.
There's no
It-
lyrics.
Okay, it would just be bad karaoke. That's all it would be.
Well, eventually we'll do bad karaoke for maybe when I'm doing another Garfield comic.
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna sing all of the
You
songs.
can just do a bunch of 112 covers.
That's like the perfect song. Some Omarion. Okay. Okay, so Jen asks, how do you put perfect center? Using ruler symmetry?
Perfect center.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
It just says, how do you put perfect center?
I don't know. I don't really know what that means. I just kind of find the middle of the canvas and
Mhm.
figure it out from there.
Is it like an estimate?
Unless it's something like I'm specifically doing with like a graphic design or something like that, then I might just center the image in Photoshop. Because you know how you can move objects in Photoshop and center them. That's pretty much all I do.
Same. Skunch says, do you plan to have the Starvale stories come together?
Not necessarily. That's not my goal anyway. That's kind of one of my least favorite things about any IP is when they try to link everything together, especially in like a big universe. I'm not a fan of that. I like when things feel bigger. You know, just in the same sense of living on Earth. It's like, I'm sure there's a billion really cool things happening right now. I'll never know about any of them, and I'll probably never run into anybody who's involved in any of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so I just like that. I want to keep everything super open and have Starvale be really weird and just encompass a lot of stuff that I like.
Alan asks, would you like to come to an event in Chile?
I mean, yeah. Just
would love
depends
to.
when.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He wasn't asking me, but I would also love to go.
Yeah. Can our kids come too?
Yeah. Salim Burke asks, no, this is not Krita. This is Clip Studio that Dave's working in right now.
Yeah. If you come to another stream, though, in the future, I'll definitely be using Krita because I use it for my other paintings as a starting place and general rendering program. I've used Krita for almost every part of my process now. Like I do a decent amount in Photoshop still, especially in like a painting, but a lot of what I do is in Krita. So like rendering values and everything, like that's all done in Krita. If you want to see specifically what I'm doing, again, the Patreon has multiple breakdowns of that.
Riley says, I love that you're getting high and trolling people online like a couple of teens in 2009.
Exactly.
I mean, like a couple of 2009. It's so funny that that was a long time ago, but that feels like not that long ago. I was gonna say like it feels like early 2000s, like 2001, 2002. Even
Yeah.
then, that doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Yeah, you know, we're a couple of teens.
I mean, that's what happens. You just look for just lonely guys playing drums in a garage. And you just
That
get,
guy answered us so many times.
and you just get predator vision. No, we weren't mean.
No, it was very, like, we asked very innocently. We weren't, like, straight up like, you loser.
Yeah, we're not bullying people, don't worry.
No. But, also, you know,
We're just dorks.
Dave and I have been together for 10 years. It's like, we gotta find some entertainment in other things. We also play Shut the Box. We also play Wavelength. We also do a lot of things, you know?
We also play Kill the Homeless.
Oh.
It's where Kim and I go to impoverished areas
Mm-hmm.
in suits.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, take justice into our own hands. Street justice.
All the good stuff that comes with a marriage. Chris Ferguson says, Dave, you seem like the type to prank call people. Did you ever do that?
I'm sure I did when I was a kid. I don't have any like funny stories about that, but yes, I'm sure I did, because that was like, I mean, I remember being little, like third grade, and having a little third grader voice and calling guys with dumb last names in the phone book and being like, "Is your last name Boner?"
Is your last name Boner? That's what
You'd be
you would
like,
say.
"Yeah, it is." And I'm gonna kill myself. And you'd be like,
Oh,
"Oh,
no.
don't do it." Nah, I didn't do that. But yeah, I'm sure.
Hey, he ain't gonna email you. Says, my girlfriend is Thai and she can do that. It's super crazy. Yeah, one of my childhood best friends is Thai, and I'd have to go to like the Thai temple with her sometimes, and they were like trying to teach me how to read and write and tie and like bend my hand backwards. I was like, girl, I'm here for the weekend. Like, I'm not trying to be. I can't.
Tie dancer.
Yeah, like I'm never gonna perform. I'm just here for the day. Fuzzy Whisper. No. Some people are talking to each other, so I don't want to read everyone's. Kim, you're the first person to correctly pronounce my last name right on your first try. Look, see, I can get those names right, but Artisto, Asias Pares, I gotta have some wins, you know?
If anybody doesn't understand that reference, Asias Pares, it's because Kim read Ace of Spades as one word. Asias Pares. She thought it was a Spanish person.
Because
Which
I
is
mean,
one
they're
of my favorite things
they're in
I've
the
ever
chat,
heard.
but you could see their username. It has a Z, so I thought it was like.
There's no rationalizing it. There's no way to rationalize Asias Pares.
No, nope. Oh man, Brendan says have a good night. Cool to catch a little bit of the stream.
Thanks for coming.
Been a big fan for a while. There are some physiotherapists on guitar. I mean, what? On YouTube. I skipped ahead, sorry. On YouTube that have put out stretches for gamers and guitarists that are pretty easy to find. That's cool.
Yeah, that's probably applicable.
Let me Google stretches for gamers.
Stretches for true gamers.
Gamer girl stretches. Hot gamer girls. Let's see. Kim, Dave, how do you find Andor so far? We did not watch the season finale, but I like it. I find it enjoyable. I didn't watch any of the other Star Wars stuff like Mandalorian or whatever. What about you, Boo?
I mean, it's good. It's not like, to me, it's not what everybody's saying it is. Where everybody's like, oh my god, this changes everything. I'm like, it does in the sense that Star Wars has been real crappy for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And now this feels like what everybody's kind of been waiting for. But I'm not like amazed when an episode, like nothing happens except they learn how to march in a circle in the grass. Like that is like the like those ones are kind of
that
like
drag.
I would
nothing
say
happens in some of those episodes.
this would be like one of my favorite Star Wars things like ever. I mean, it probably still is, but like if they cut it down to half the length, I feel like you could do the same amount of stuff that they did in this season at almost half the length.
Yeah, like
maybe
the
a little
pacing
bit
is weird, isn't it?
Maybe a little bit longer than half, but something like that, because there's so many like maybe that's the point of just tension building and whatever, but it feels like a stretch in a lot of spots, especially in the beginning.
Feels like poor pacing. Yeah, it did feel like it started really slow.
Not that it's bad, it's just, you know.
I'll tell you what threw me off. The name Clem. I hated that. That made me so mad. I was ready to turn it off.
You know, he gets some dumb Tim and Eric name.
That was like, is this a joke? Is this a parody Star Wars thing? Like, what is that? Rashanta says, hey Dave, did you work on God of War Ragnarok?
I didn't. I talked with them about potentially doing a couple things, but yeah, just never ended up doing it.
Dave only calls Dan babe. And then the key to becoming a comic artist is CTE. That's what J Ram says.
It's true.
Nameless says, good lord. I'm guessing about your art. Odd Mimic says, Dave, how can I get my artwork on a wine bottle? Who do I call?
I don't know. Wineries.
Yeah, it also depends on the wine company itself, because Dave did Stone Brewing, right? Stone?
Yeah.
And there was someone who was hired as like their art director or whatever, head of advertising, but the owner of Stone Brewing just ended up talking to you and telling you what he wanted.
Yeah,
So it just depends.
I talked to that guy on the phone for most of that job. But yeah, I mean, if you want to work on something, you just talk to people online where it's apparent that you could do something like that and you're easily accessible.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if that is something that you're really into, they like people who like wine. They have huge, conventions, whatever.
I just really like that this
Go.
person's probably trying to joke around and giving them this earnest,
That's right.
this real response.
Let's see. Chocolate Anime Girl says you're just old. Yes, I know. When somebody was talking about like turning 21, but they were born in 2001, that made me feel it. But also the fact that I can't even read the names on my screen and I need glasses, that also kind of makes me feel old.
Yeah, it's fun getting older.
It is. 2009, only 13 years ago, right? Kristen Benson. Can you tell me why Dan said he'd forward my work to a director, then backtracked after I bust my ass working, saying it gets awkward? This feels like something that you should ask Dan. It feels like
I
you're...
have no idea.
Yeah, that feels like a you and Dan conversation.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like something we wouldn't be able to answer. How are you? Says, you're the dick brush guy. What? Look, see, Asea Espada says, to be fair, it's written as one word too. See? Thank you. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. Alan says, Dave, you are my great inspiration. I'm always trying to improve my drawings. I send you a hug from Chile. And then a bunch of hug emojis.
Well, thank you. And good luck.
Shuddy says, hello. Dave, did you ever struggle with pen pressure sensitivity? Until now, I use a cheap tablet with like 1,024 levels of pressure. Bought new tablet with 8,000 levels. I have a hard time making it feel good.
I mean, you get used to it, but I think the only times I struggle were like really dumb things where I didn't realize my pen was broken until I got a new pen, and then I realized like, oh my god, I've just been struggling at this for no reason. Like I should have just bought a new pen.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's happened to me where it wasn't my fault. It was just this like weird hardware issue. And other than that, you just kind of work on something long enough and get used to it. Like my thing with the iPad, I still have a problem working in Procreate. Like I'm not crazy about it, but it's probably just me. Not, clearly it's just me because tons of people are working in that program. But I just mean like it's probably just me not giving it enough time. So yeah, it's however much you want to put in.
Odd Mimic said, no, Dave, earnestly wanted to know how to get my art and alcohol bottles. I just seriously don't know how or who to contact. Good,
Okay.
Because we were earnestly answering.
Okay, because I do have artwork on alcohol.
And then they also said that they love the piece that you made for that brewing company.
Cool. Yeah, you just have to put yourself out there that's something you're interested in.
Yorkland says, hi, first off, change your username. Do you that was so hard for me to say.
Yorkland.
Do you have any physical proof that Dan is still alive? No physical proof.
No.
I could call him right now.
Yeah, he was on the last stream.
Mm-hmm. Jets to anywhere. What's better, Garfield hentai guy or the dick brush guy?
Garfield hentai guy, I guess.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know. Both of those aren't good for my career.
No.
I know that for a fact.
How are you? Says, didn't Dave make a dick brush back in the day for Photoshop to prove it didn't matter what brush you have to make
Are
a
these
good
multiple
painting.
people just
Yeah, these are different people asking
somehow
about.
all talking about the same thing
Yes,
without acknowledging each other?
pretty sure that was him. This is like us asking people if they live in a garage. Just trolling us now. Zach says, I teach high school. They do not even know what Monty Python is. That's
Yeah.
weird.
But I also feel like there were kids in my high school who didn't know what Monty Python was.
That's true. I can't talk because there's so much that I don't know. I was very sheltered, I feel like.
And Kim doesn't even know who like Dennis the Menace is.
I know who Dennis the Menace is. He's that kid with the dog Snoopy.
It's true.
Aoki says, hey, I got my copies of Lichman yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Yay! That's awesome. That's exciting. They're all sold out for now. Asias Perez says, I bought a case of that beer just because Dave's art is on it. It was disgusting. I don't think we tried it. We got sent the beer.
Yeah, it's just sitting on the shelf
I don't
here.
think we drank any. That's hilarious.
It was disgusting. That's really funny.
Odd Mimic, are you sketching that dude with a staff and lantern from far away? Just blocking in shapes?
Yeah, I mean, I have it, I don't know, at a comfortable distance, really. It's like I'm not trying to zoom way in and do a million little details if I can avoid it. So I'm trying to convey as much information as possible with as few lines as possible.
Chocolate Anime Girl. That's a good username, by the way. That sounds amazing. Walking around drunk at 3 a.m. telling people I made the art on that bottle. Stop laughing, it's true. J-Ram, I literally sent that self-portrait to a group chat a couple of months ago to see if anyone noticed. They did notice. Dick brush one that you did.
Yeah.
That's funny. Forrest email.
Oh, hey, Forrest.
That name sounds familiar.
Old Crimson Dagger.
But they were in like the Twitch streams too, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey Dave, happy to see you still streaming.
Hey, Forrest. Happy to see your career going so well. I like seeing all your work. You've improved so much since back in the day. It's wild.
People are still on the dick brush. They said, whose dick was it?
I don't know. It was just a Google dick.
It was a Google dick.
It was just a dick I found on Google.
Riley says, the guys at work have not even heard of the artist who painted with a dick brush. Those sheltered pieces of shit.
It's fine.
I already know.
It's the way it is.
Edgar Moranis, Dave and Kim, how do you manage a relationship when you're on that get good grind? Seems impossible to have a healthy amount of time with your significant other, especially when you're in that zone.
I think when I was really studying a lot, I don't think I would have found a balance there. I think like in general, it's really difficult to do, especially when you're just not financially stable at all, and it feels like you're constantly kind of pushing uphill towards something, and you can't really get there without putting in like a million hours. It's a hard thing, but I think it's just, I don't know, it comes with wanting to do something very difficult. If you want that to be your career, you want to be good at it, you want to be at a place where you're known for that thing, then inevitably the amount of time you're going to put in to get better at that, it's just going to be so hard to maintain healthy balance in anything, let alone a relationship, even just your own health, like your own exercise, getting outside, having friends, going to things. All, like if you're a freelancer and that's how you want to go, there's so much time in the first however many, like it's up to you how much time goes by in some cases, because, you know, however much time you invest, hopefully you get back if you're working on the right things, because you'll get better and better. But like, that can go anywhere from like, 5 years of constant struggle to 10 years of constant struggle to 3 if you break your back and go crazy trying to get contacts and just fighting to get somewhere. But I don't think there's any perfect way. Like, you want to tell people, because there's the whole push of anti-crunch and everything, which is, it's admirable. It's what you want. You don't want people to live unhealthily. You don't want to live in a society that demands you break your back to get anywhere.
Yeah, and then pay later with your mental health.
Yeah, it's like, you don't want that. But if that's the current reality of where you are, and that was for me, I didn't have an option. Like, I would have loved to not do that, but I couldn't afford to survive if I didn't work constantly. And then on top of working constantly, study in order to get better, so that I didn't have to work constantly, so I could get paid more for what I could do. It's like, there is no easy way through that.
I was going to say, the person you were dating when you were first starting, I mean,
Yeah.
she was also working towards her career at least, which was probably helpful, but there really wasn't a time for you guys to like...
No vacations.
It was more of like
nothing, no
coexisting
trips.
rather than like working on a relationship. The relationship was
but
like
not going to shows, not going out, not doing, like, it's just...
the relationship wasn't worked on, is what I was gonna say. Like, it was just there.
Yeah. That stuff's so hard. It's really disheartening to kind of talk to people about that, because you want to say something else. You want to say, like, no, make sure that you do this and that and the other thing and stay in shape and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but God damn it. Like, back then I like didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I just worked constantly. But it's worth it in the end, because I get to do this for hopefully the rest of my life.
Well, and now, when you have like deadlines or whatever it may be, we have an established relationship, obviously. There are just times that I know that that's the sacrifice, is like, I'll have to pick up more of whatever else we need to.
Yeah.
And then we have to make a conscious effort to like not forget to look at each other in the eye. I'm not saying that like, Dave and I are really good about this.
Usually
We're very
divert my gaze when
it's
I'm
just
in
that
the zone.
you get so busy with like, this has to be done, then this, and then you just go on from the next thing to the next thing.
Yeah.
And like sometimes, like, let's say Dave wasn't streaming right now, I would honestly just be sitting in this chair and just be like in each other's presence if he had to get work done. Making the most out of the time that you do have. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But it's not always like that, and you have to make sure that you find a balance. That's really what it comes down to, is knowing that like, you're still trying to get good.
Well,
do it.
You find a
but
balance. Like, now I can have a balance, but when I was working on, like $1,900 jobs just to afford rent, it's like, unless you have some weird safety net with somebody who's helping you, or you live in the middle of nowhere or whatever, it's like, there's not a easy answer for that.
Yeah. Yep. Forrest said, "Oh, thanks. I'm sure it'll crash and burn soon enough."
Hopefully not.
And Frankie Lynch says, "I come into chat to talk of a dick brush," so everyone's just talking about it. Isan says, "Good morning from Indonesia, Master Dave. Hope you have a really good day."
Yeah, thank you. And good morning.
J Ram says, "Dave was in a relationship with Dan, who was also on that get good grind. So just add that to your Hinge profile." Jack says, "Hey Dave, how do you prevent yourself from burnout? I've been struggling with it recently and wanted to hear if that's something you've ever struggled with."
I felt that where like I just didn't want to do anything. I just felt like kind of dead. I just keep doing stuff. That's really it. I don't burn out in the sense where like I stop working or something, or I can't bring myself to do something. Like, that's never happened to me.
One of my favorite stories of when you were working a lot and just like how crazy you felt when you lived in Boston before we met you've told this a couple times, but you had a mirror on your desk for reference, like so that you could make facial expressions or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you looked over and you just started, like, tears were just coming out. That was like one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, where I didn't know. I was so stressed that I was just hysterically
Crying
without like
without crying. It was just tears.
without like sobbing. Like nothing involving my mouth.
No, you were
The
just
sound.
tears, just liquid coming out
Just
of your eyes.
quiet, constant tears. Because I was just so stressed trying to make deadlines and
Yeah.
do everything I had to do.
I think the best thing, as far as like burnout, like actual burnout, it can come from a couple things. Make sure you're getting enough rest. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Make sure you're eating a healthy enough diet that you're not feeling like shit, and go outside. Even for like 30 minutes, just go outside.
Yeah, get some.
You have to take care of your mental health, because all of that stuff will in turn make you more productive, make you, at least get a break from the burnout,
Yeah, when I was a freelance person in Boston, like that was one of the main things I did for my sanity, was like go for a run every morning and exercise and like work out, lift weights.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was enough for me to really kind of restart myself a bit.
Yeah, just have a little bit of some. And also routine. Routine is really good for your mind. It's very good to have something that's like reliable like that, especially if you feel like you're being pulled in a bunch of different directions. So having like a routine and starting something like that is also really good for your brain. Odd Mimic says, Dave, I still remember the Twitch streams. Favorite story, Dan's army friend trainer chasing a kid who assaulted him through the forest like the T-1000. Good times. Was that the guy who's like a Secret Service guy now or whatever? Or who was that?
Yes, I think so. I think that's the story they're talking about, yeah. I think, I can't tell if they're combining a couple, but yeah.
Let's see. Riley Easter, I gotta get going. Later, trolls, keep on poning. I hate you. Go back to your garage. Zolnut says, hey Dave, I bought that Magic the Gathering pack just for your Blanca card. Oh, that's awesome. We haven't even seen that one yet.
Oh yeah, we have that one.
Did they send it to you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it yet.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
even play
have it.
Magic, but I love it.
I have it somewhere. But yeah, that was like one of my favorite cards because, it's a Magic card, but like I just treated it like a Street Fighter job. So I just made believe that Capcom hired me to do a really cool Blanca image. And I was super excited about that. My hope was that it would turn into something else. Like I'd get hired to maybe do some Street Fighter things or work on Capcom IPs, but nothing came of it really, which is fine. I still got to do it and it is official, so it's nice.
Rashanta says, just found you on ArtStation. I guess I'm your 1200th follower.
Yeah, it's cool to get on there finally. I've been reluctant to join for a long time, and I just figured, I'm not really like looking for work on there, not in particular. I just wanted somewhere where my portfolio was, also accessible. So anybody who is younger than me can find me.
I know. The people
That's
who
the
are like
reality.
actually working in the industry now, not the people who are retiring. Love your answers, Kim. Dave, I'll do my best. Rio Ken says, master. That's all. Just master.
It's really funny.
Huh.
Like I always thought it was like weird when I was starting out. I'd see artists that were like famous in their own right in terms of just like whatever industry they're a part of. Not like famous where anybody would know them, but in their space. And they wouldn't exist like on any forum or nothing. I'd be like, how come these people aren't like relevantly a part of the community in any way? It's like I feel like that'd just be so beneficial for them even at that level. And then
now
like now that I'm like
you're-
working all the time and I work on like all the stuff that I saw those people work on, I like time goes by so fast that I'm becoming that person who just exists on a couple of platforms, but like doesn't exist in their community, like art community. I'm like, oh right. I mean, not that I care too much about that. Like I'm not like obsessed with anything in my field in terms of like, oh, I want to be a part of the people, you know, talking about art.
Yeah.
That's not something that I care about, but like just posting where artists post would be helpful.
Yeah, probably just being like, I mean, it looks like
it still exists.
Yeah. I'm still working. Yorkland says that Tear Story sounds like a 90s PSA, drug PSA commercial.
I mean, I did so much stuff like that. Like that was such a chaotic time. Like I had so many moments like that.
And then, like, and you were working out like crazy too. And there's this like his old driver's license in Boston is like him yoked, like him with like these huge traps. And he just looks like a meathead. It's just crazy. And it was like the first time you had like buzzed your head short too. Your hair short. He ain't gonna email you. Says, go back to your garage. That's gotta be the most soul crushing response ever. Well, we've also added little like nuances to it, which
you can soften it.
Yeah, which is like, that's really nice for a finished garage.
No, you say,
Wow.
Is that your garage? And they go, what the fuck? I don't live in my garage. I meant like a
A
finished
garage. And then like, oh wow, you converted the garage doors to regular doors. That's like really cool. Like when you finished it, that's really cool.
It's such a dumb troll.
Oh, it's so stupid. It's not even like, really, it's not even that mean. That's why it's funny. Because it's so like childish.
But it's also not even that funny.
It isn't, but it's
just funny.
hilarious. Joshua Barber says, have you worked with Capcom yet?
In any way? I don't know. That's actually a good question. I can't remember. I
feel
don't
like
think so.
Really?
What would I have worked with them on? Okay, so
What
I've
about
done
the
a couple
Power
things.
Ranger?
Yeah, right. I did work but that's not directly with Capcom.
Okay.
Like, I've worked for Capcom in the sense that I've designed, like, not designed, I just painted up their characters for the Power Rangers Street Fighter crossover game. And
Yeah, that's something.
I did that on, like, the products that they released for their Hasbro Pulse line or Lightning edition or something. I can't remember what it's called, but those figures, I did those paintings. And yeah, let me think. I don't think so. I don't think anything
Okay, that was
like
the one I
straight
remembered.
up for Capcom.
Okay. That was the first thing that came to mind, though.
Yeah,
Alex Zapata says, hi, Dan. Thanks for doing this stream.
of course. Welcome.
Are you ever too old to make it, specifically in comics? When do you know when to quit?
No, you're never too old to make it, for sure. I mean, even if you were like, I feel like you're never too old to really try anything you want to do that you're excited about. But I know plenty of people who started really late. You know, specifically Brad Rigney started pretty late. He was, what, like
30s?
late 30s when he first started, like in general. And then he became, this really good painter. But yeah, it's never too late to try and do something. And there's nothing,
What about when
at least
you
as
know
far
when
as
to
I
quit?
know, there's nothing about age that's going to hold you back. When do you know when to quit? I don't know. I guess it depends on everything else surrounding what you're doing. It's your circumstances. It's your responsibilities. Like,
Your obligations.
like what do you have going on in your life? It's like if you have the time and you can invest into doing something you want to do, and it's not irresponsible in like a major way for your family or something, and you can't, like if you can find a comfortable amount of time to devote to studying, then you're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just up to you whether or not you want to do that. But if it's something where it's negatively impacting your family in like a very brutal way.
Yeah, and your own life and your mental health and
Yeah, then
your
maybe,
physical health.
then maybe not. But yeah, I don't know.
It also, yeah, like you said,
It's a
there's
person to person.
everything surrounding it. What is the end goal, right? Like, is the end goal to get as good as this artist, you know, whoever, right? Whatever it may be. Like, it just depends on what your goal is. Chocolate Anime Girl says, what is your favorite classical painter?
I mean, there's way too many to name. Ilya Repin is one of my tops. I like Leyendecker. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody who stands out above the rest. I have a bunch of people that aren't classical painters that I'm into that are just older painters. I like Noriyoshi Orai. I like James Bama. Yeah, lots of people. But the masters in general are all, you know, artists that I look back on and go, wow. You know, Waterhouse. Lots of people.
Lageno says, hey Dave, love your work so much. I bought the largest Super Metroid acrylic print you offered. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
It's hanging over my SNES setup. Looking forward to the FF7 one to get my wife
too.
when it's complete. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing that FF7 thing. I started that thing in so many different approaches because I felt like it was really lagging. And now when I'm working in Krita and doing those like bigger images, they fly by. So that would be the thing where I come back and knock that one out because that one's like almost done. It just really needs me to put in a few hours.
Yeah. It's funny. People talking about older people working. Alex says, oh my god, I just realized I called you Dan. So sorry about that.
I was gonna let you get away with it.
And then he ain't gonna email you. He says, Dad, you have to stop drawing these goblins. It's tearing our family apart. J Ram says, has the productivity boost from becoming Big Daddy Dave worn off, or has that drive continued?
I do have like an endless well of that.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, I just need it to be directed in the right way. But I have probably too much motivation. I don't have a problem with like discipline and working hard.
Dave cleaned our entire garage yesterday and put up the Christmas tree. And he's working tonight, and he went on like a 2-hour walk with our 3-year-old. I mean, let me tell you, this guy. I'm just like, yeah, you guys could go play rocket ship.
Yeah, I take on everything like it's a job.
I mean, I enjoy my kids too, very much so. But usually by the end of the day, I feel very mentally exhausted because I'm trying so hard to be like a really good mom that I'm thinking about everything I'm doing and how it's affecting them. I feel so mentally drained by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Dave has a lot more physical, I don't know.
Endurance.
Yeah, I think so, than I do. I feel like mentally I have a lot of endurance because I have to manage everything. Like what do they call it? The mental load. Like I carry the mental load.
Yeah.
I think about everything. Like I know how many deodorants Dave has upstairs, and I bet you he doesn't. He doesn't even have to think about it when he runs out, you know? Like that kind of thing. I know that we have this many pieces of bread left, and I'll have to go to the store soon. That kind of thing, you know? But Dave's like physical capacity and like to keep going and push himself to draw and like keep working is like incredible. And it's like only gotten like more intense since we've had kids, and it hasn't stopped. I think this is the thing though. Everything, every day, everything that we go through with our kids, every milestone, it's like, wow, like it just makes you want to work more. It's not like birth all over again, but it's like now you're seeing them as like people and like the future that they have ahead of them, you know?
Yeah.
And we're just in different stages of parenthood each day. So Max Smith says, is Krita the blender of 2D? I'm so old and decaying that I've never heard of it until a week ago.
I don't know. It's just like is Blender free? I don't know. I don't know anything because Krita's free. I don't know if that's like the thing of them comparing the two.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's like a open source software painting program, and it's just really user friendly in my experience, and it emulates paint really well. I like it a lot more than like Corel Painter and Rebel and a few of the other ones. It's like I find it much more intuitive, and I get the results I think I'm going to get when I use a certain brush. It's like if I'm using an oil brush, it works the way I want it to. Mm-hmm. Not like this weird Photoshop version of that where you kind of have to make it look like oil. Mm-hmm. And the same thing goes for like the drawing brush. I feel those chrome brushes, it works the way I want it to work. Like it works the way I'm thinking about forms. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but it's just better. Same thing with Clip Studio. Clip Studio works the way I want it to work. Like if I put the right pressure down, it responds the way like an inking brush would respond, not the way like a Photoshop brush responds, which isn't, it's just not nearly as intuitive. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
David Floyd says, Dave, is Skull and Shark officially dead or still working on the story?
Not still working on the story. The story, like there's been multiple versions of the story done for literal years. Like I would say that over a decade there's been a 100+ page script for the whole thing. So that it has existed forever. And now, since we've gotten much better at writing after doing a few books and a few other projects where we were writers, it's like we have a much better idea of how to do it. We
as in Dan and Dave.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it's at. It's not dead though. I have always struggled with like what would that book look like, and I think it would look similar to the way I do kind of my loose paintings in Krita, like a lot of energy. And I found that like if you go and see if you go to my Twitter, Instagram, or ArtStation, there's a Halloween painting I did. If you look at that, that's probably the closest thing I have in my portfolio right now that I can point to and say it'll probably feel like that. And that's mostly like those Krita brushes. But I think that style is the closest to what I want Skull and Shark to be. And yeah, it's just another thing on the pile. Because we have to finish Steve Lichman book 3. Got to finish this Star Veils comic. And then hopefully Skull and Shark soon after.
Lots and lots and lots of stuff. Blender is free apparently.
Okay, cool.
And Ryokan asks thoughts about AI art, which I mean, I feel like we've talked about that
I'll
on
say
previous streams, but
I'll say it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts on AI art: I like the idea of it a lot. I think the look of it is pretty crazy, considering what you're able to do with a phrase. I think what's murky about it is just usage rights. They need to pay for licenses for people's artwork, or, you know,
just as
something.
if you were to sample a song, you're sampling somebody's art.
Right. And the artist needs to be compensated for that, because the AI couldn't make the artwork it does without sampling all the artists it does. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, there needs to be
clearer,
some kind of regulation involved.
Yeah.
And until that happens, it's basically just a bunch of pirated works combined into one thing. It's fine for generating like maybe like pitch ideas or something. You'd still have to touch it up, but you can't really use anything because there's the problem with copyright. Like you can get in trouble for that, like actual legal trouble. And for sure there's coming like lawsuits around this. There is no way that's not happening. So prepare for whatever that's going to be. But whatever comes out on the other side of it, I think it's going to be just another tool.
I agree.
And I don't hate it. I'm not like one of these, anti-AI art, like I hate it completely. It's like,
Right.
it's just dumb to, I think, exclude people who are just playing with it as a toy. It's like, it's really cool. Like it's really
fun.
cool for people who don't have an interest in doing art to just be able to say like, oh, Danny DeVito as a rat in a monster truck and be like, oh, there it is. It's exactly what I wanted. It's like
I would
it's
never be able to draw that. So
you wouldn't want to. It's like,
you don't know that.
but it's like you can just do dog shit stuff and have fun.
Yeah.
It's like it's fun. I totally get that. And it has a lot of merit in that way. It's like, yeah, you can't shit on that, I don't think. Like that's so cool. But there just needs to be a bunch of other things, paperwork wise, to make it, so artists aren't getting fucked over. But once that's all cleared up, yeah, I'm all for it.
J Ram had asked, or said, scared to ask if Kim knows how many grains of rice she has in the house. I mean,
Is that racist?
No, because I was saying like how I know how many like deodorants you have or whatever, like the mental load.
Yeah, okay.
Like I'm just thinking about all of this stuff. Yeah, no, I know how much rice is left in the house. Grains, no, but approximately I know how many cups of rice. This is the mental load that is always on my mind. Stas says, how is house hunting going? Do you have something on the horizon? Nothing on the horizon because prices are still dropping. We still have to wait for our
The rates
tax year
stink, but
as well.
yeah.
Rates doesn't matter. We can always refinance. But right now, prices are still dropping. We have until, I think, end of May, for our lease to be up. So we have time to look. So we're not like in a rush. We don't want to rush into anything, especially buying our first home.
No. But
And
whenever we're there, we're gonna have an actual studio.
we still
We're gonna
don't.
have all our shit sorted out.
I mean,
Sick.
we're gonna, on the outside, it'll appear very like we have all of our shit sorted out.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? We don't even know if we're gonna end up, on the East Coast or not either, or stay in Colorado. So that's another thing. But we are always looking, and who knows? We don't have a house locked down yet. Raul says, I've been trying to use the Chrome brush, but it works like nothing I've ever used before. Lol, the cross-hatching it creates confuses me.
What was it?
The Chrome brush works like nothing he's ever used before. The cross-hatching it creates confuses me.
Yeah, you'll figure out a rhythm for it if you use it long enough. I just saw that people were getting good results with it, so I kept hammering at it like over and over and over again. I'm like, there's got to be more to this. I'm just not there yet. It's the same thing as like what I said about Procreate. Like I don't really have a ton of confidence in that program. I don't really like using it. It's just because I don't use it.
Yeah, but some people are like, really, really proficient.
Lots of people. Like it's like the same thing as like Blender. One of like the programs is just gonna redefine the art space. And that Chrome brush for me was worth putting in a ton of hours into just to figure it out. And now that I have it figured out, it's like the fastest part of my process. Like I love it. I can do so much work in that program. Like I would say it sped me up probably 3 or 4 times. Like,
I would agree with that.
Like it's pretty remarkable. Like it might just have to do with how it lines up with how I think. But yeah, me and Krita were like ka-chow together.
Scunch is hopping off. Have a good weekend.
Later, Scunch.
Gigi says, have you ever burnt yourself out? How have you ever had difficulties motivated yourself back from a period on not doing art for a while, if at all?
I never took time away from art once I started going at it. Like, never. I've been doing art almost every day for nearly almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think consistency is key. I always find that I really enjoy time away from art. So I more or less look forward to that than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a hard time coming back to art in the sense where I don't know what to do or whatever. I took time away because I had block, and then I came and I was like, oh, how do I even pick it up and go again? I will get to a vacation and I will not draw anything for just the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll come back and just start working again. But I never had long periods of time where I didn't work in a negative sense. How would I motivate myself? I think when I was studying a lot, I had a lot of trouble making myself study because studying is so boring.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I got around that was doing live streams. So instead of watching me draw this right now, you'd be watching me study, and we'd be talking and joking around and, just going through everything that we're doing just to kind of all be on the same page if you're all studying with me. It's that's how I treated it. It was making a community around the things that I wanted to do.
I think also,
or I had to do, rather.
In a different perspective, just same application, same style of studying and application is when you teach something, it sticks.
Right.
So being able to teach others while you're learning, oh, this is the thing I learned today. This is the thing I'm learning right now. Let's learn together, and making it you said communal, whatever.
Yeah.
It helps. It feels good. It feels like those things stick. Those things make it more enjoyable.
Yeah. I also used that platform once I started doing it, started live streaming all my studies. I used that as an opportunity to interview artists that I really liked live. And then I would ask them questions about how they got started and how they studied and, how hard it was and whatever. And then that sort of realization that everybody goes through the same things and the people who just stick with it are the ones who succeed. That was a big incentive to keep going.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it too, was getting motivation from those sources was super helpful.
Okay, I just read something really gross, and if it's true, that makes me feel yucky. Chris Ferguson said there are private medical images in the data sets, and companies don't care. This is for AI art.
Okay.
I won't use it until they clean the stuff up. Gross.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's weird.
I mean, that's really disgusting. Can I tell you too, when I worked in a hospital, do you know how many wounds I had to take pictures of? Is it that? That kind of medical stuff? What are we talking, You know how many, amputated toes I've seen? Because I had a diabetic come in and, I had a patient with gangrene once. Never mind. You guys don't need to know. Just saying. A lot of that is documented. Is that the stuff that's in this AI art? Ian says, it took me a long time to learn that most of the tutorials on Gumroad that play at a super fast speed and have short runtime imprinted the idea that my work had to be done and finished in that time.
Yeah, it is. It's rough to be at that dopamine place where you feel oh, I need to always produce something, put something out, be quick, speed paintings. Every day I should be posting something on social media so that people say nice things to me. But you
Get
have
those
to
hearts.
also look at the other people who make content online. Like some people release, like if you, like just to speak in like YouTube terms, there are YouTubers who make like one video a month that's really good, or one video every 3 months, one a year, whatever. It's like, but people still show up if it's good. If you constantly put out artwork that's just pressured around putting things out as quick as possible and being like all these people that you think work a certain way, it's like, yeah, but is the meat there? Like, is the whole point of what you're doing present in the piece? Because if you're just phoning it in over and over again on these quick release things where you're like, oh yeah, I got this little bit of dopamine hit from getting a couple likes on the thing I did in 4 hours today. It's like, okay, but will that stick with anybody? Will that make people want to hire you to do something? How will it benefit you? And if you just create great work and that's your focus, then you'll get much more attention for that. I mean, you have to love what you do, and there has to clearly be like you in the work. Your excitement should be present there. Like that all will carry. But so in that way, it's not like you have to spend a lot of time on something. But if you feel pressured to work a certain way, it's going to show, is what I'm saying. So it's never going to be as good as the thing that you just feel comfortable doing and put time into appropriately.
Ian also says that he likes the post that you focus on the lesson and refining an idea rather than polishing random brush strokes.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideas are everything. Like, an idea is the whole illustration. It's the whole concept character. It's the composition, there's the strength of the shapes. The very basic things, I think, are key. Everything else is like icing on the cake. If you have a solid structure and a cool idea, then the rest of it will work. Like you can do very basic level rendering on a really cool idea or something that's even just funny, and it will work.
Garfield hentai.
How dare you downplay Garfield hentai's majesty.
Max Smith. Yes, we are still in Colorado. Sorry, I just smacked my teeth like that. Probably did not sound very good.
Hey, man.
Yes, yeah, we are still in Colorado. J Ram, with Dave's work ethic, why not just build a house from the ground up? I mean, we've considered. Let's see. Robin Turner says, do you mind if I draw Danny DeVito as a rat in a dump truck? I would love that. Please, please do it. And then tag me in it. J-Ram, have you spoken to Miles Johnston since he had his twins? It would be, and that's funny, you were just talking to him the other day. It would be an interesting convo to hear about being a parent and also being an artist.
Yeah, I have talked to him. Yeah, I'll ask him if he wants to hop on a stream someday, because I haven't talked to him, at least I haven't heard his voice in a while. But I like DM him on Instagram. We talk and he sends me pictures of his family and I send him pictures of our family. We're just normal friends.
Fuzzy Whisper said, that medical stuff sounds like a lot. It's just the surface. Rashantha says, seeing a lot of artists recently moving to Hive from Twitter. Do you have any plans to do so too, in case you haven't already? Haven't even heard of it.
I mean, I'll start an account there, but I don't really care. I mean, do I actually think Hive will blow up and replace Twitter? I think if it's a lot like Twitter and looks just like Twitter, probably not. I think, unless I'm missing something that it does that's different. But yeah, I'll go on there just to go on there. But I don't think at the moment it's got anything that's really pulling me in and being like, wow, this is so much better. Or, I have too many contacts on Twitter. And the problem I have with something like Hive is that I think the more specialized you get in terms of your community, where it becomes more specific, it's like ArtStation is its own bubble of artists. It's not like there's a bunch of people with accounts on there that don't do anything involving art. So
Right.
you don't get access to a ton of people. And I think if you see like a specific group going to a place like Mastodon or Hive, it's like, yeah, but who are you there for? Like, just to show other artists your work? And like, what does that do? Like,
I
just
don't
gets
even
you
know what any of
hired.
these are.
They're just social media shit.
Okay.
It's like, but like, what are you who are you trying to show this to, and why? Like, what are you ultimately doing here? Are you networking to people who could hire you to do something? Are you just trying to talk to other artists?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want like a director to see your work? Do you want a game designer to see your work? Like, who are you aiming at? So I think all of that stuff is kind of like why I see Twitter as just ultimately a better platform, considering, you know, the alternatives.
This kind
But,
of
yeah.
piggybacks off of that. This is a different question from someone else. Do you feel like social media is a net positive for artists, or could you ever consume or see too much art?
You can definitely see too much art. I think being on ArtStation, and this is maybe like me being, I don't know if I'm being mean here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's negative to look at other artists all the time. I really do. Like, I think that you should, like, there's a great Miyazaki quote, like Hayao Miyazaki, like, talking about how there's too many fans of anime that get into animation
Mm-hmm.
and work on anime. And I think that that's the same for artists who might only look at like ArtStation. Like, you need to have experiences outside of that. You need to live a life and have inspiration from your life and what you do, who you meet, whatever experiences you take in, stuff you see in your life. It's like, have weirder points of interest, like pull in old books, like find cultures that you're not familiar with and research them, like learn about them, look at the design of their clothes, like look at other parts of the world you aren't familiar with, and just artists from everywhere. Like, look at comic artists if you're not familiar with them, look at people who work in animation, look at just every facet of art. Like, take it all in, not just one narrow vacuum of just game art.
Mm-hmm.
Because that can just put you into a box where you just start being way too incestuous with what you do. Everything just ends up looking the same. You're coming up with the same stuff everybody else is doing. It's like the meme that was prevalent years ago, back when like ArtStation first kind of blew up, was that thing of like, take a soldier body and put a, you know, security camera for a head.
Mm-hmm.
And he has an assault rifle that's 3D printed with, you know, carton of eggs on it or something. And it was just like photo bashed up, and people were just making fun of it all the time because everything felt the same.
Right.
And I think that if you're on one platform, one social media thing, and you take in too much of your own bubble, you just look like everybody else, and you don't end up having your own voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just an echo. It's like, watch out for that. Seriously.
Yeah, you don't want to be in an echo chamber. Excuse me. Jack says, Dave and Kim, do you both play D&D? If so, what is your favorite character or creature from any of your sessions? Have you drawn them? We don't play, but we want to get into it for our kids. I think
Yeah.
it's a really good, like, use of your imagination and good practice and strategy.
Yeah, we're gonna
Something that we want to get into eventually.
play.
Our kids are also very young, so we have time to learn. Zach says, listening to Dave, Daniel, Dan, Kai, and Brad kept the inspiration flowing. We'll go back on occasions and just listen to the old podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that
Kai,
stuff was
I wonder
fun.
how he's doing.
I know. We used to talk to Kai pretty often.
Yeah.
We haven't talked to him in a while.
I mean, I feel like you talked to him since we saw him, but when we went to Seattle and saw him, but
Yeah, not
otherwise,
much.
yeah, it's been a while. Stas is hitting the bed. Squeal you later. That's what he said.
Cool.
He ain't gonna email you. Said, it's all part of Dave's super long-term plan for grooming Miles, the teenage prodigy.
True.
Anton Road to Mastery. That's that's a good username. He says, and how deviant art is for the sexual deviants. Is it?
True.
Is that true? Craig Mullins said similar things about how art can become inbred, artists making paintings that are about other paintings rather than drawing from life experiences. Yeah. Well, Craig Mullins sounds like a genius, because I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard Craig say that, but I'm starting to sound smart.
Sounds like he's been listening to a lot of the Pigpen.
Yeah, sounds like he's one of the hogs. What's up, Craig?
Sounds like Craig might be in the chat.
Secret's out, Craig. We know you're here.
Rashonda says, agree with you, Dave. There were some artists I followed on Insta to learn, but all they do now is post about selling their merch and posting their personal opinions that aren't related to art. That's rough, you know? Like, there was this singer who I really, really liked. So much so that there's this one song that I told Dave if I had heard this sooner, it would have been our first dance at our wedding. Like, that's how much I like this. And then she opened her mouth. You know? Like, just keep your political opinions, like, stay in your lane. Like, I don't need you to represent anything for me. And don't, like, maybe have a separate Instagram if you really want to be a big part in that, you know, and take part and participate. Good for you. But, like, people who follow you for your music or your art don't follow you for your opinion. That's just my opinion.
It's a hard thing because people, like,
I feel like I have
understand.
this platform now.
Yeah, people feel like they have pressure to do the right thing with a platform. But I think you have to really put your ego in check. Mm-hmm. And understand that you didn't get popular for that reason.
You didn't get popular for talking about politics.
Right.
You got popular because you went, ooh.
Yeah. It is unfortunate
you got popular
when
because
people have that ego.
Because you made a dick brush. You got...
It's
right?
true. Yeah, I mean, like, I felt like I was always conscious of that. Mm-hmm. Like, I never wanted to be that person that was just, like, overstepping.
And people ask you your opinion on stuff, too, and that's something different, like, on a one-on-one thing, but, like, never have you ever just been, like, posting your stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, and if I do, like, at some point, oh, my God, do I feel terrible after?
B says, yep, this is a great point. I feel the more vastly different points of inspo you put in your art, the better you can express yourself. Very nicely put. J Ram says, Dave, how often will you drop your kids off in the forest instead of at school? Which tools will they be allowed to take with them?
I don't want to have to do that. I'm sure a bunch of people in here are like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
It's because that's what my dad did for me. Instead of going to school, because he hated school just as an institution. Like, he didn't like public schools.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot that he didn't like.
Yes, but he dropped me off at the top of my street, and then I just went into the woods and I played all day, and then I'd come home when I was supposed to come home for school. And that's what I did for like a lot of school days. Mm-hmm. So I would basically miss just the right amount of school before I was ineligible to like graduate to the next grade.
Before like the truancy officers would come get you.
Yeah, before people got suspicious. But we're looking at hopefully finding a school where we won't have to worry about that.
Where they're actually going to enjoy it, and we know that they're getting a good education as well as becoming well-rounded people.
Yeah.
So.
And if that means that we lose all our money in the process.
And it sounds like
so
it might be.
So be it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're working hard for, right?
It's the
their
only
future.
thing you care about.
It's the only thing.
It's like that's the most important thing is them.
At the base of it all, and besides, like, you know, the fact that I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. We also got married because we wanted to have kids. It's like that, you know.
Yeah.
The animal instinct. Eam Random says, "Hi, Dave.
Hey.
He ain't gonna email you. Says it wasn't something Craig said in a YouTube video or anything. It was from a collection of his old Sejun posts.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of really good insights in there. Well, we were just joking." So Daniel Bruno Art says, "I used to have the PDF of Craig's Sejun posts, but I lost it. Do you still have it?" Okay, well, that's between them two. Why am I reading that? I'm just like reading their DMs, but in the chat.
It's literally, you know what this reminds me of? Because we just saw it last night, is Anchorman. Kim will just read whatever's on the teleprompter. Like, even if it's not relevant at all to what we're talking about, or a question for her, she'll just read it.
You guys are just putting it out there for me to read. I don't know what
Like,
I'm
it's
supposed to
literally
do.
Anchorman.
This is the thing. I'm so fearful of like missing a question. I'm not afraid of it. That's not actually the right word. I'm not scared. I'm not
You should
scared.
have crazier fears.
I just don't want to miss a question. There's
Yeah, you
nothing
don't wanna
worse
miss
than
a
being
thing.
like, "Hey, I have this question," and they didn't even answer it. Because I was in the chat when Dan was streaming with you guys, and he wasn't reading my questions, and I was getting so irritated. I was like, Daniel Elijah Warren. So I'm reading everything because of that. Sorry. What? This is not a question that I need to answer, but was the song Airplanes by MIA?
Don't even know what's that. Like, is that a reference to something we talked about?
Yeah.
What?
No, it's not a reference. But it's a question for us, I guess. The answer is yes.
Okay, so all of this stuff is there.
Mm-hmm.
And now... Oh boy.
It's really cool.
Thanks. Now I have to do this big old archway in the back. I was trying to figure out if I should do this first or if I should do the base part with the stairs, but I think the base part with the stairs is so easy that I shouldn't do it. I should do this part first. Just bite the bullet.
Joshua Barber said that Kim's chicken, which could mean that he's referencing like a chicken recipe that I made one time and I talked about, or that I'm afraid.
It's definitely a chicken recipe. Kim's chicken, I've had that.
Yeah. Sounds like the best, worst dad ever. Also, the public school system is broken. We have trainers now instead of teachers. They train you what to think when they should teach you how to think. I agree. There's so much else wrong with it, too. It's very much like a prison. It's very much like the dictation of like when you can and can't use the bathroom, that kind of stuff, like rather than having autonomy and allowing kids to have judgment. Is it a good time to use the bathroom in the middle of a lecture? Are you going to miss something? Maybe. How are you going to get that information? Ask a friend. But will they ever figure that out? No, because you're being told, no, you cannot use the bathroom. It's so strange. That's a very specific. Very specific. But I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot more to it too. Like there's a lot of, you benefit from public schools because it's free, obviously, like free education. But
I mean, if you have no other option,
if you
it's
have
better
good
than nothing.
but if you have good memorization skills,
Right. Certain
is the
people
thing.
flourish.
yeah, like I did really, really well in high school. Did really well. But because I never had to develop any like studying skills when I went to college, I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to study for tests. I didn't know how I learned. I didn't know what the best way to learn was, you know? So it's a whole thing. I just feel like even though I did well, I feel like I could have benefited from learning more about myself and, you know, not just being told how to like be a factory worker basically.
Well, I was like second lowest in my graduating class, and then on top of that, like when I ended up going to a school just to see if I could go to any college, I just went to SVA in New York just to see if like what would I have to do. I was like, because I had been told multiple times like, oh, your portfolio is, you know, way more than enough to like get into some kind of art school. And I went to SVA and they were like, okay, yeah, like you could go here, but you would need to take supplemental classes like art, English, whatever,
Math,
like a bunch of stuff.
Before you
I mean,
even
yeah,
get into
math,
college.
English, not art.
Yeah, before you get into college.
And I just like, when they told me that and they told me how much money it would cost, and I was just like, why? I could just go, like my dad always told me, go to the library, read on your own, learn on your own, like get an apprenticeship, talk to people who do the stuff you want to do. Stop relying on the school, like just talk to people. And when I started doing that, like my dad did a bunch of stuff wrong, but he did a bunch of stuff right. And one of the right things was that it was just being like, no, just do everything you want to do and don't wait for people to give you permission to do something.
Yeah, like you're relying on somebody else for your own future.
Yeah, so I just started reaching out to people. Like when I was a 20-year-old, 19-year-old, like I just talked to people who are working professionals all the time. Like I just had a conversation on the phone the other day with a 15-year-old kid who needed to talk to a working professional artist for their school. Like their school asked them to reach out to people working in different careers. They wanted to be a concept artist. And I talked to them for, you know, like half an hour. And I just kind of talked to them the way I'm talking to all of you, just kind of going off and saying like what you could do, what you know, what freelance is like how it's going to be bumpy in the beginning, like all these different things. And that kind of conversation to me, yeah, that should be like
that should be a normal part of
learning. Yeah, like if you have an interest, like that should be part of everybody's school, to be like, reach out to people who do the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
To get a grasp on what it actually means to do that thing. Because the best part of that is that not only do you get information that's going to help you better aim at what you truly like to do, it's also making that job or profession real.
Seem attainable.
Right. It's like that. I just talked to a human being who does that thing. And that's what it did for me when I was 19, was like talking to somebody who was a working professional helped me so much, because I was like, oh, these are just normal people just like me. They're no better than me. They're no worse than me. They're just human beings who did it. And especially when they tell me like how they did it. Oh, I just studied a lot and like I learned under a person, or I did, you know, X amount of comics or concepts. And they'd be like, and then I just eventually wound up here. And I'm like, oh, so you can almost like, as long as you're working really hard and you're generally doing the right kind of work, you can almost fumble your way into this if you're dedicated and disciplined. Like you don't need to do it perfectly. There's no absolute way to do it. There's not like a path you walk down like to become a doctor.
Yes.
There's no ironed out way. It's just how you made it. And I learned that from talking to tons of artists. Everybody had a slightly different way of how they got into the industry. So I just felt like they did it. I can do that.
And you can create your own path. It doesn't have to be one of that's been created already.
Yeah, but it's like, but the way that I had it in my school was they just told me like,
You're never going to be
fail.
anything because your grades are...
Yeah, they just said I was, like, I had teachers, like the joke that I heard a lot, which is, you know, whatever, is they'd be like, every time they saw me like later in life, they'd be like, oh, I thought you'd be dead by now.
Yeah.
And like, that's always what I heard, because I was just I didn't do great in school, and I was, you know,
Because you didn't do
acting
great.
out
Yeah,
and-
you acted out.
I was just a piece of shit, whatever. It's like, but I realized later on that if I had the right kind of approach to learning that suited how I take information in and actually like hold on to stuff, like I could have done fine, because like, I love listening to like Harvard lectures and like Yale lectures and stuff. Like I love that because the teachers are super into it. And if you go to like the right school, you definitely have a major upper hand in terms of like what you walk away from that experience with. And if we can provide that for our children, then, you know, that's the main goal.
And this is coming from two people who did completely different in high school. Like, I thrived in high school. Dave did terrible in high school. I mean, we still had, like, somewhat successful outcomes, you know, afterwards. Obviously, Dave has a very successful outcomes. I would say myself would be, like, somewhat successful. But it's just interesting, because I think that even though I ended up where I am, you know, I have a college degree, I have a profession that I worked hard to get to and like earn. It was a struggle. It was seriously a struggle, and I think I would have done so much better, and I probably would have been on a quicker path to get there if I had gone to a school like what we were considering. People are asking about Montessori. Montessori, it depends, because Montessori is like an idea, basically, and a school can be a Montessori school but not follow it like 100%. You know, they have like little deviations from what it is. So we were looking at something called a Waldorf Steiner school, but it's similar but different. If you have time, look it up. If you have kids, if you're interested, it's really cool. We won't go into too much detail about it, but that's the type of school we're looking into. I feel like the most, J Ram says, I feel like the most schooling, like most schooling will look more like universities in the future. Students self-teaching through iPads, online teaching with support of a teacher for questions. Magaler says, that was my public school essentially, and I got lucky. They have considerate parents. That's true. Having supportive parents, I mean, really, attentive, supportive parents.
I mean, I
Might
attribute
make
almost all
you-
my success to like my dad.
And to me, that is the most privilege you could have, not money. Money is privilege, but I do think that having parents who are attentive, even, you know? And I think that, like, that is what we're trying to do. It's not that we're just trying to buy a good education, it's that we're investing time into researching these schools and seeing what is the best possible outcome for our kids.
Only because we, you know, in terms of a privilege, we do have the privilege of being able to do that.
Yeah.
Because
But we would have found, if we weren't able to afford it, we would look for something similar,
we just
or like,
hired a homeless person who juggles to
Yeah.
teach them how to do that.
well,
'Cause
why
I
not?
feel like that'd be better than the education I got.
Everyone's kind of talking to each other. More grooming, just playing. What? Oh, with the 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, buddy. I hope all the student I teach have Chromebooks. They are so absorbed with social media, they get lost in a false reality. It is really cool to see them working digital in class, though. Yeah, that's scary. That's a scary thought. My school had a local art studio come in for some weekly workshops to teach cool things like creature and mech design. Wow, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
None Ya Biz says, I got into SVA, but it was too expensive. Yeah, I've heard it's like wicked expensive, like
I can't-
$100K a year.
I can't remember how much it was at the time, but I want to say it was comparable to like a Harvard education.
Yeah.
It was really ridiculous.
And like a very small amount of people come out of there like with huge success.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with anywhere. It's like, how many working artists are there who are working at a high level. Like, not that many. It's such a small industry.
Michael Munns, am I an RN? Yes. RN, BSN, bitch. Sorry, you're not a bitch. I just like saying it. It feels tough. I was, let's see, SMJRVS. I was brought up with the idea that you go to university or you're a failure. Creative jobs aren't real. Trades are for dummies. As long as those ideas aren't perpetrated, we'll be okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's like that. There's still a little bit of stigma of like, oh, a starving artist. Because even 10 years ago, when my family met David, they're like, it's so hard to wrap your head around it. And like, what is freelance work? Oh, so you don't have just like a set job, like you just do job to job. Well, like, what does that mean? Is there security in it? And they don't know how to understand that, you know?
Well, it's also cultural because your whole family's Asian, so it's like
I mean, my dad is white, but
I just mean like everybody I met
yeah,
is Asian. I didn't meet any of the white side of your family.
No, but I feel like my dad was still even like,
Yeah.
what? You know?
But
What
I
does
mean that
this
more
mean?
to say of like they will heavily lean on doing something in the medical field. Like everybody in like in terms of what's a
I think that they're
success or safety net.
it's that they don't understand abstract ideas. They don't, it has to be concrete. It has to be, well, there has to be a way. Like, they don't understand creating your own way. There is a path that you follow. There are steps that have to be taken. There are rules, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. But I just mean because of that, those are the things that look like success. It's like it's something that you can point to and be like, I know what that is.
Yeah,
It's like,
you
but
have
if
a
it's something
paper,
that you
right.
don't understand, then it's like a whole, like, I don't talk about work really to anybody. So like, I never just go out of my way to talk about what I do.
No.
And I never felt, I don't know. I feel more comfortable with it now, but especially then I never felt comfortable talking about it because it's just so weird. I don't know how to tell people who like don't know anything about it. So I just never really bothered. Just be like, yeah, I'm a freelancer. But as soon as like things happened where they're like, oh, you're like, remember when like Logan came out
Yeah.
and they were all like,
What?
what? Your artwork's in the movie theater?
Yeah.
Like
It's
then
in
all of a
Times
sudden they were
Square?
like, oh, you actually, what? Like I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how to say that.
But I mean, that's like, okay, you've been with me for a decade now, pretty much, almost. And even like someone like, you know, your mom's not a great example, but she didn't even really get it still, you know, and she saw you doing it.
Yeah, my mom be like, they pay you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? Like a feature
My movie
film?
poster is
like,
in
yes,
Times
they-
Square. What do you think?
I guess they paid me. It'd
Yeah.
be wild.
You got
if
paid
they
for
didn't.
that?
They didn't pay me. Did they pay you? It's like, yes, I did. I did get paid.
Lagino says, I really like both of your outlook on education. My wife and I are both animators, and we have a kid on the way. So this sort of stuff is great to hear and think about for the future. I mean, I think that it is good to think about it now, but there's so many milestones that you're going to hit in that first year and the second year that don't like get bogged down with that stuff, because you're going to be learning so much, not just about a baby and how to be a parent, but about yourself and about your partner, because those are going to be some of the hardest times. And I think that it's really interesting how like forward thinking you do have to be with kids, because like I said, our kids are young, but we went to go tour the school not that long ago, like, and it's a K through 12 school, but my oldest is only 3. So yes, think about it, but give yourself a couple years to like, you know, get the basis of stuff down first, because I was just crying about it earlier. I was like just learning how to be a mom with my first one. And now our baby, our youngest, is about to be 2.
I swear to God, I cry so much now.
I
Like I don't
right?
know. I don't know what happened.
I know, me too. I'm gonna cry right now.
Like I really do think I've just been taking like hormones. Like I don't know. Like I think there's hormones in my coffee.
Yeah.
Like and I just drink it every day. Like I had G Fuel for a little while. I think G Fuel is just hormones, because I felt my pelvic floor loosen
Yeah.
while I was drinking it.
You felt your scrotum get a little closer to your anus.
Yeah, it's scooched a little closer to my asshole.
You felt your gooch shrink.
Yeah, I got the gooch scooch. It just went a little closer to my ass. And then I was like, started weeping. No,
Yeah.
seriously though, like I've cried so much. Like anything where something happens to like a kid, I like I don't have a problem with like horror stuff or like thriller things. But if
The
there's
real
like a
things.
documentary or something, or if like there's a touching moment between like a parent and a kid, I'll just die.
Okay,
And that happens a lot to me.
my niece was in the hospital for like a week. She had the flu and she needed to be on oxygen. And I showed Dave a picture of her that my cousin had sent. And like heartbreaking. I'm crying. This is my very best friend. My cousin is my very best friend. And I showed a picture of her, and she's just sitting in a hospital bed with oxygen, and Dave and I both started crying. Like, this is so hard. But yeah, Costa Piano says, "Have you mastered? Oh no, you have mastered art. Is there any other field you want to be good at?"
I haven't mastered art, and this is the one I want to be good at.
Magaler says, I'm probably reading that wrong. Yeah, my dad was a dropout, and my mom was a straight A student, and you can guess who makes more money and has more fun with their job now.
It could go either way,
Daddy?
but I'm guessing Dad.
Yeah.
Some people did fine. Like I can't just shit on education. It's not education. It's just the person.
Yeah.
Some kids aren't right for some types of teaching, and I just wasn't right for public school. I wasn't. I'm not stupid. It's like I can understand things, and like I got what was happening.
Can you say that a little bit more sad?
I'm not stupid. But I mean, in all reality, it's just like how you take the information in. Anything where I got to use my hands or, you know, like chem lab type stuff, like I got that. But reading and just holding that and remembering it like a month later, like fuck that.
Yeah.
Like
Application.
I would have needed to be teaching
Retention.
people what I read. Like I can't just read it alone and then just be like, there it goes. I got it. See you on the test. Yeah, I remember this. Like there are only things like books. Like books, I read.
Stories.
Right. Like in English, we'd read classic literature, right? And that's when I really like fell in love with books. Is I'd read like Of Mice and Men. And I remember the night I read that book. I read it in one sitting because I loved it so much, and I just hated so much about school. And I remember reading that book and just feeling like, oh, this rules. Like this book is great. And I remembered everything about it because I just loved it. And I realized like then, like, I mean, I didn't realize at the time, but in retrospect, it's like, oh, I just needed to really enjoy it. I needed to be a part of it. I needed to like be engulfed in the story or whatever, or be just actively involved.
Yeah. There's something that you're like imagining with it.
Yeah.
Sunstrom says hi, and also you describe Diogen, the homeless that teach your kid.
I don't know what.
Because we were saying like if we couldn't afford school, you'd just get a homeless person to teach them how to juggle.
Oh yeah.
Diogen, that's what it's called apparently. Dave, are you sure your success isn't better attributed to the exorcism you underwent as a teenager? Maybe you just need to get rid of those demons, man.
I mean, honestly, I will say a lot of success in terms of like who you meet, who are successful people, almost all of them who have, okay, let me reframe that. Success in terms of like a weird discipline, like an odd job, like something that you don't expect somebody to like just be able to do. All of those people that I've met, and I feel like I've met a decent amount at this point, they come from weird backgrounds. Like weird stuff happened to them in their life, or more extremes, I guess.
They've had to overcome.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that's me, but I do think like anything like that probably does something to you where it makes you a little different.
There are some hard circumstances that you had to overcome, for sure.
Yeah.
There are people who have been through a lot more.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I
everyone
would never say that like I had a
But everyone
incredibly
has
difficult time.
No, but everyone has, it's all relative, like, to
Sure.
what you've experienced. Like, the people who have become successful had some sort of like adversity.
Right. But that's not saying like you could be like a hedge fund, dude, and not have crazy trauma in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's success that's not that, not because of that. But most of the wildly successful people that I've met have some weird thing happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had multiple conversations on the phone with a secret billionaire that I can't bring up. There's only a handful of billionaires in the world. And I worked with one of them for a long time. And I got to ask this person
You
all
text
kinds
him.
of wild questions.
You guys text. That's how crazy it is.
Being able to ask a billionaire questions nobody's ever asked them. Like for sure. Nobody's ever asked.
Talking to a billionaire and him saying, "Wow, you really don't hold back when you said something that was kind of mean." That's so funny.
I know. I am longing for the day I could talk about anything.
I know. It's so funny. Forrest says, my sister-in-law told me she thought I was a loser basically until I got my latest studio gig, even though I'd been freelancing successfully for the last few years. She'd known me for 10 years. Dang. That's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah, I'm the guy that made Garfield hentai kind of a big deal. Yeah, really hard to be a parent. Bigger challenge than working in the industry. Yes. Dave cries, I'm taking back my Patreon pledge.
Yeah,
Not the G Fuel. Gooch Scooch. That's a screen name. That's going to be my new screen name. Dan's in the chat. The coyotes outside want to eat my dog, but I'm going to eat them first. 20 yotes. Thanksgiving's over. You cannot eat the coyotes.
It's true.
Unless you've put them in the freezer and save them for your Christmas feast. That's like a delicacy, Dan. Jack, I don't even have a kid, and I get very emotional when kids are in some sort of rough situation or having a tough time. That is a sign of a good parent, that you will be a good parent. I've definitely become more sentimental too. Thomas Basor. I hope that I said that right. Hi guys, I'm so happy to hear the portfolio review is coming back. I hope you can check my portfolio and finish a Discord challenge on time.
Nice.
That will be exciting. We will look forward to your submission. The Sauerkrauts fan. We had answered that a little bit earlier in the stream about AI art generators. Yeah. So, sorry, but we're probably gonna not repeat the answer on that one. Let's see. Pitching this conversation as the key scene in my coming-of-age drama starring a de-aged Matt Damon. You know what's really weird about Matt Damon? He's not attractive, but he's
Just a blanket statement.
he's
Just an absolute.
but he's very charming. He's very charming, and that makes him so attractive. Like, it's so funny. I've looked at like the you know when he's like on a movie poster.
Yeah.
Like not just in Good Will Hunting, but like what is the other movie that we watched?
Born Identity.
Yes. And I see him on that, and I'm like, really? Him? And then I see him in the movie, I'm like, yes. I have a huge crush on his personality. That's really dumb, but I feel like he's like one of the... I don't know, there's probably other people like that too. But like that's always the first one that comes to mind because he's such a big star, you know?
I mean, this goes to show personality.
It makes him hugely attractive, But if he never talked, I would be like, no thank you.
That's the problem with dating apps.
Mm-hmm. You're like trying to win him over on a picture. Lautrec Winifred. Hey Dave, I have a question. How does someone pursue something that hasn't been done? I feel like everything has been done, and whatever I see online from artists or from mine has become boring.
I don't think anybody, I mean, maybe some people who are successful in that regard start out with that kind of initial idea. I'm going to do something that's never been done. But I think most people, if you become so comfortable with yourself and you get into the weeds on who you are and what you love, you end up doing something that other people haven't done because you have enough confidence in yourself to do something that you haven't seen before that's just an instinct. I think that this is going to be cool. And then I think that's how you do something that maybe hasn't been seen before.
Jack says, do you have any fantasy or sci-fi books you would recommend? Are there any in particular that have inspired you? This can also be a question for Kim if you enjoy reading sci-fi and fantasy books.
You're out.
I read a series about fairies. You want to know about that?
The ones I recommend, Roadside Picnic was cool. I recommended a few on the last one that we did.
Yeah, we talked about books in the last one too.
But yeah, just was it Area X or something like that? I can't remember. That one that I recommended to you, that was pretty good. The Story of Your Life. Yeah. Nothing crazy. I don't read a ton of that type of book. I mostly read like World War II books.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I just enjoy how intensely dramatic those are, and I find just the contrast of how wild that time was with now. It's like, oh my God. When you read what they went through, it's insane. Same thing with like World War I. Just the idea of gas coming across a field into a foxhole,
Like,
and you
how
don't know what
terrifying.
it is, and then people just start dying all around you, like you feel like you're burning up and your lungs are burning, like it's just chaos. Like those two wars and all the battles between, it's like that whole line of books, like I could just live in those forever. There's just so many. Like if you just read even like that Vietnam book, The Things They Carried, that's one of the most brutal books.
You cried.
My God, I cried at almost.
Let's talk about crying some more.
Almost all of those books do something to me.
I know.
Especially if I get to like, if I feel like I'm in it. At the end of it, I've talked about this before in a stream, but when it flashes forward to them being old and their whole life, like you got to see like the part when they were in their 20s, and then it flashes ahead to when they're old, talking about it, like that makes me cry because I feel like I'm gonna lose a person, and that like kills me. I get like way too connected.
I like that. Sweet. Maybe I can turn my wacky traumatic childhood into an asset after all.
You can. You absolutely can.
Daniel Bruno Art says, bet the billionaire was Scrooge McDuck.
Basically. I mean, if you're listening to this, dude, which I feel like is entirely possible, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, why are you sorry?
I mean, I'm not sorry. It's just, I'm sorry you had to hear it.
Yeah. Zoo says, hello, I just joined. I thought I launched my last audiobook when I heard the voice talking about a billionaire.
Oh, yeah.
Ian says, Kim, what does au jus mean? It's just a dumb, like...
It's just a dumb nickname.
Yeah, like... Dave and I didn't ever call each other babe or baby or anything like that. It's
just that Kim bought...
I ordered a French
dip.
That's so stupid. This is such a dumb story. I ordered a French dip sandwich. Okay.
It's just not
And
worth
then
it.
and then they were like yelling out. They asked for our name for the order, and I said Kim, and then the dude was just like, dip, yeah, because it was a French dip. And so then like the dip that comes with the French dip is au jus, and so we were just calling each other juice and dip, and
Yeah.
that's it. That's literally it. It was just, and so now you've probably heard me slip. I try not to do it in front of people because people are always like, "Did you call him Jews?" And I was like, "No, I call him Juice," and that's just what we call each other. It's just Juice,
Yeah.
and yeah, so Juice and Dip. That's what we call each other. Very dumb, but that's it. That's all it is. And I didn't put au jus because that name was taken, so it just became on Juice. He ain't gonna email you, says coyotes are actually the same biological species as dogs. They can reproduce with dogs and produce fertile offspring.
I know they can do that. My dogs have sex with them. I
Don't
do.
say that too fast.
I do it.
Took 2 edibles to sleep, then the yotes showed up. Now I'm tripping. They're yipping, and the whole night slipping.
Get out of here.
Oh, Dan, you have to get on our level. We were just talking about, I don't know if you were at the beginning of the stream, but it explains that screenshot that I sent you about,
Yeah, we'll tell you again.
yeah, about being in the garage. Greg Rock says Dave was painting a troll while casually chatting with Warren Buffett. That would be so amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Poor Matt Damon. Speak your truth, Kim. Agreed, Matt Damon isn't a hunk so much as a lump, and good for him, he rocks it. Scunch says, I occasionally get coyotes yipping at night in my neighborhood. Their yips are creepy. I thought Scunch said that they were leaving. That they were going to sleep. I remember someone... I
Beat
feel
it,
like it was
Scudge.
no, I thought it was like a
Take the hint.
familiar name that said that. Then maybe it was someone else that said goodnight. Jack says, yes, I wouldn't mind hearing about the book on fairies. I don't think you do. It's like a hot romance book, honestly. It was a little much for me. I liked it, but it was a little much for me. Like, it's not one that I would be like, you should read it, because it's so weird, because then if you like read it, you knew that I read it, and there's like some sex scenes in there. That's all. Venonette says, do you ever come across little rendering tricks that look good to you, but that you worry only look good to you? This kind of stuff is driving me crazy.
Anything that looks too artificial to me, that always looks bad to me. So if it's like a rendering trick that's, you know, some kind of shortcut, just shortcuts. I can't shake the fact that it's a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like a trick, you know, or something, like it just rubs me the wrong way, and I have to stop doing it. I had a bunch of things like that. Whatever music we're listening to right now is so stupid.
Is it? I can't hear it. Obviously.
Yeah, it's like industrial dark synth. It's just so lame. I have to stop listening to this. Hold on, let's find a different one. That was distracting me with how bad it was. They're all very similar. I like how somebody was like, yeah, the background music changed and I just ripped on it. What were we talking about? Shortcuts.
Shortcuts, yeah.
Or rendering, whatever. Yeah, I need to feel like I touched every part of the canvas pretty much. Like it just needs to feel like it was done by hand to me. Like there's no shortcut I've found or rendering technique that's filled that hole. And I'm always looking to fill holes.
I know. That Gooch Scooch needs his hole filled.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read A Lucky Child? That one made me want to vomit, but I couldn't put it down. No.
No.
Dan says, dude, I cried this past weekend. Hell yeah. Bitch, why you crying?
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, let's divulge. Some of the best names have the dumbest origin stories. Thanks. I know. I mean, really, though, this is the thing. Because it's not babe or baby, it was really weird because some of my family were trying to, like, call Dave Juice. I was like, it's not his nickname. That's, like, my pet name for him. That's, like, it's just so strange, you know? And so that kind of threw us off a little bit because it's not, like, obviously that, like, lovey name. And then in Dave's wedding band, instead of, you have the option of, like, getting engraved 3 letters. So it could have been my initials. It could have just been Kim because my name is 3 letters. But in his wedding ring is something very special that I won't share. That's just for us. But yeah, it's not my name. And Daniel Bruno art. I had some wacky tobacco once and went walking through my neighborhood one night, and a trio of coyotes followed me around in a triangle formation for a block and a half. I'm 75% sure they were real. That's scary. When we lived in the our second apartment, there was like an open field across from it, and Dave would take the dogs out at night and walk them, and the coyotes like tried to circle you guys, right?
Oh yeah.
And then
I got completely like
surrounded.
Multiple I think there was 5 coyotes were just surrounding us when we were just in the road. So I had to pick up the dog, and I just kind of walked towards the coyotes and yelled at them and stuff, and then they ended up going away eventually. But they were super brave. They were just real excited to eat our dog.
Well, then after that, remember what happened? One of the apartments had a window open, and there was a baby crying, and they were like,
oh, right.
They were like pacing in front of that window.
Yeah, the coyotes were at the base of the apartment window, just like pacing, hungry for babies.
Ian said, so I had read Ajus as A-U as the atomic symbol for gold, and juice as the second part of something hella nasty. Gold juice, like pee, like a piss name.
A piss name.
It's not. Sorry to disappoint. Oh, the Scunch. See, Scunch did say bye. He said the cream called me back from my sleep. I remembered.
Yeah.
I remember our little piggies.
Yeah, you can't be creaming in that slumber.
The cream awoke you from your dream. That's called a wet dream, my friend.
Yeah, it'll get you.
I don't know who recommended it, but I did read Flowers for Algernon, and he's like, he has like a really low IQ, like of 30 or something like that, and he's an adult, and one of the things is like, I get a funny feeling, and I don't know what happened, but when I wake up, my sheets are all sticky. That's what happened to Scunch. Rashanta says, can we get a session with tips for perspective drawing and foreshortening?
Yeah, I mean, we could always do specialized things, but it would probably be its own, like, video.
Something that's posted on Patreon, probably not like a live thing.
Yeah, I mostly use these streams at this point, just try and get work done.
Get work done, promote the Patreon, talk a little bit with you guys, talk about, you know, and answer questions.
Yeah.
So what Dave's saying is we should apply heavy chromatic aberration to our finished illustrations, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Haven't you seen Into the Spider-Verse?
Right.
That's how you do it.
Dave needs to feel the space. You mean the guy who draws everything by hand doesn't like art hacks? Dan, what happened to the guy who said that if you refused to look at his penis, it meant you were gay?
What happened to him? I'm pretty sure he hung himself.
Oh, was it? What's his face?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
He said that?
It might have been his brother, or it might have been him. I can't remember who said it.
Dan says, wait, Kim, are you trying to say you read A Court of Thorns and Roses? Yes, bitch, been done with it. All 5. All of it. Those are freaking long books, okay? And I did it all. I was listening to those when we were in New Hampshire. What do you know about this, Dan?
Oh
no. The chat lag on stream. It's not lagging. I'm just reading every single chat line. Sunstrom says, "Hey Dave, do you like Pyotr Jablonski work?"
Yeah, I do. And that was the big kind of push for me to get into Krita, because his work, it just had like such a nice quality to it, like his sketches and whatnot, and I just couldn't understand how he was doing that. And then I DM'd him and he told me that he was using Krita for a lot of it, and that just got me to use the program for the first time. And ever since then I've just been trying to get to his level, what he was doing on some of his pieces, but I'm doing it a little bit different than he did. I can show it on here because I'm sure there's a bunch of people who haven't seen this. This is the cover I did for Blackbird's RPG, and if you look at the rendering in this, almost like all of the rendering with these characters is done in Krita. Like I do grayscale to color, so almost like all of this stuff is Krita brushwork. Like literally almost like the whole thing. So yeah, I really got a lot out of that program. I do a decent amount of like mixing parts of the render in Photoshop using like mixer brushes, but for the most part Krita for rendering everything, and that's all because of his work.
Beautiful.
I forgot this was up here. I just closed that and then up popped a picture of a pig.
Oh,
because this is when our kids were in the office here, and they always come in here and they're like, draw something, like draw a pig. So I'll just end up drawing like the fastest pigs.
Oh. I need to read this to you. Well, Dan says he's all up to date on his Fae erotica. This is the best. Well, okay, so Daniel Brunard says, when I read Flowers for Algernon in junior high, I thought it was a real journal for longer than I care to admit. And he ain't gonna email you. Said this is the best one right now. My first wet dream. I didn't know about sex yet, so I woke up and I was like, what the fuck is this shampoo? Did someone molest me in my sleep with shampoo in their hands?
Oh no.
That's like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I've ever read. That's funny. If you're gonna have a piss name, class it up. Sparkling Gold, Topaz Gush.
Topaz Gush. I mean, that's for sure a G Fuel flavor.
That is a G Fuel flavor. That's funny. And J Ram says, not only is Kim reading every message, she's memorizing them and who sent them so she can do callbacks to things you said months ago. I just told him it's a curse. Such is the joy and burden of a true roast master.
No, Kim's memory is absurd. She'll meet somebody for the first time, and then months will go by, and we'll see that person again, and Kim will ask them about stuff, like people in their lives that she hasn't met, just because they mention them for a second. She'll be like, oh, how are your kids? This name. How are they doing with school now? Because they had this problem. And then like just these little details that I'm like, how the fuck did you meet that person once, hold on to all that information, and months later we're meeting them again? I didn't even know I knew who this person was. And you know like everything about their personal life, and you don't talk to them. Like, I don't understand how that's possible. It's a crazy skill.
It usually has to be conversational though. That's the thing, right? Like,
yeah,
like I can't just meet somebody and then just like know them or whatever. Because this is the other thing. Like, I feel like I'm not as sharp as I used to be because we have kids, and now I need to like know so much about them, obviously, like their entire lives.
But you still have a crazy
So
memory for
my
that stuff.
but my capacity is like going down. So if I meet you and I don't remember you, please don't be offended. It's not that I didn't want to. I eventually probably will, but it's like I'm not as sharp as I used to be. I feel like with that, it's just I don't know. It's just something that I've always. That's why I did well in public school.
But it would have been like you could have made that like a party trick. Like it's that kind of weird where it's like, how the hell did you do that? I don't know. Like, yeah, it's a weird skill, but Kim can do that. So you're not wrong about the callbacks thing. Like she'll remember somebody said something, from like a while ago.
And also sometimes like this is the other thing too, like as long as you're not changing your guys' names and stuff on the chat, like for the most part there are some pieces that like in our past Discord challenges that have like stuck with me and that I know who did them. Like I still think about those.
Yeah.
Like I know that this name did this art thing, you know, this like piece,
Sure.
right? So it's just a matching game or something in my head. Whatever, no biggie.
It's a biggie.
J Ram said it's honestly impressive, also very useful for roasting people to death. I know, that's why you gotta be careful what you say. You just hold on to it forever.
Yeah, Kim's the unintentional roast master.
I know, I don't.
Sometimes intentional.
Sometimes when I'm asking people if they live in a garage, that's like me trying to be a roast master.
But the thing of her talking about the weak hands,
The what?
the weak
weak
hands
hands.
on the sword. If you
That
were
was-
there for that portfolio review that we did,
That was an accident.
that was an accident.
There's been other times too where I've just accidentally.
I gotta tell Kim, don't. Hey,
He has a water bottle next to his computer. He just sprays at me.
yeah, stop.
Sunstrom says, I think there's more than Krita with Piotr. He had secrets he won't tell, but I think he paints like an old master without knowing because he is instinctive.
Well, I don't know his other secrets. I know he uses Photoshop for a decent amount of what he does. I just am not crazy about Photoshop, and I don't have the love that some people have.
What is the canvas size DPI you use for your large prints?
Pretty huge, like 600 DPI when I'm actually rendering, and then the pieces themselves are like at least 40 inches tall.
I wish.
And, you know, I don't know what they are wide, but they're all huge. And you can scale them because if you put them at like 100 DPI or 72 DPI, you can basically print them on the side of a building because they're that big. So that was the intention. There's no real, I don't know, benefit to doing that.
Except for that you could put it on the side of a building.
Yeah, if it ever came up that somebody needed, like if you go on my Patreon right now, you can go and find, I think the Final Fantasy VI one has this, definitely Metal Gear Solid has this, but you can find links to download the 72 DPI one that's big enough to literally put on a wall or a bus. Like you could just download it and have it.
Nameless. Hope you guys have a great rest of your stream. It's been a joy listening to you guys talk and draw.
Thanks.
And Laura says, you were forgettable. That's not what I mean. Maria T says, been lurking and having a fun time. Kim's memory is impressive. Thank you. J Ram. Apparently Kobe was the same way. Remembered small details about everyone. So Kim is the reincarnation of Kobe, confirmed.
It's true.
I was probably born when he was like 10 or 12. So unfortunately, it is not that you are less sharp. You just now allocate space. This is correct. Jack says, so what you're saying is anything embarrassing that we say in this chat will be remembered forever, so watch yourselves. Don't watch yourselves, just share. Go for it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Kim's saying she wants that.
I want the feel. I need to sharpen myself, right? Rashanta says, well, Kim, you surely won't ever forget the name Ace of Spades. Well, Espadez has adopted the name, I think.
Yeah, there's no forgetting that.
Yeah. Fuzzy Whisper, the most scathing roasts are effortless. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wasam, good morning. Just woke up. Good morning to you. Dan says, worst roast Kim ever gave me was when she asked if I had plates. And I realized I'd been eating out of Tupperware for 6 months. Wasn't even a roast. Just the way she said it was like a terrible mirror. I didn't even know that I asked you that. When did I ask you that, Dan? Now I have 20 plates and I still think about it. Did I ask you that at your apartment, in Rhode Island? Oh no. Do you have plates? That's so funny. Excaliosu says, hey, I want to know, how do you add so much detail without the whole piece looking too noisy?
You just put every piece of detail in a bigger shape. That's the key to it. As long as your detail lives in a readable shape, then it doesn't look too busy. And you need to have areas of rest, so you can't over detail something. You can't go in and like fill every inch of this with lines, because then you won't see anything. So as long as there's a discernible, space between like the shapes, so you can tell what's what, or they can be different colors and sit on top of each other in a composition and still work. As long as they read as separate, then it's okay. But you kind of have to figure out how to juggle all that. Because I definitely started by over detailing everything. Mm-hmm. And then I had to figure out, oh, this is how you do it. You work it up a certain way. So, yeah, that's how.
Ian says, if you could do me a favor and remember my hamster image rather than my misinterpretation of your Discord handle. Got it. Locked in my head. Already forgotten. Laura, my cringe jokes will be immortalized in Kim's memory. You're welcome. Not as much. Sorry. I'm just kidding. Chocolate Anime Girl says, I don't have plates. So Dan is actually roasting other people. Dan says, you don't remember that? You went to cook pork chops in my tiny kitchen and realized I had plates or had no plates or bowls, only silverware. Oh my god. I do remember cooking. And I was like, I remember cooking in there. And, I was like trying to tell you the recipe. And I was like, this is the pot that I used. This is how many circles of salt to do. One circle around the pot and then another one while you're pouring. Okay, that's enough.
This is the language of somebody who clearly just cooks from instinct and has no measurements for anything. She just knows how things taste and makes good food. And then Dan's like, how do you make that? You just make it. You just wave your hand around.
I don't know what to tell you, Dan.
Yeah, there's no measurements for this.
He said then we played Bomberman 64 and drank. That's funny. I don't remember saying that. I remember cooking pork chops in your apartment. Helix, howdy y'all. Howdy all. He didn't say y'all. I threw that in there.
I just turned my camera on because I'm starting to fade.
Okay. Got any dad jokes?
I don't know. Dad jokes? No.
Do a what's his face one?
What?
Norm joke. His jokes are the best.
Do what? Like which one? There's so many, and some of them you can't do on a stream.
You told me one recently, and I can't remember.
Oh, it's
It was
okay.
a good one. Laura said so effortless because that's just so me. Wasm said, back when you were honing your art skills, how did you develop going on the 14-hour-a-day schedule? Was it in any way gradual? Also curious, how do you avoid getting burnt out? Well, we've kind of talked about getting burnt out already, but how about your 14-hour days?
It was kind of like a necessity. Like I just had to do it because I felt a lot of pressure because I just thought like there's no way I'm going to get out of where I'm at in a reasonable time unless I really invest myself into what I'm doing. So then I started just working really long hours. Nobody was making me do that. I just did it. So I just kind of forced myself to sit down and work long hours. And I figured if I just did that every day, I'd get to my goal faster. And that was really it. And the discipline, well, first it was motivation. I had a ton of motivation. And then when that motivation started to fade, and we talked about this a little earlier, I just started streaming. And when I started streaming and having people watch my streams every day, it was like, and I said I'd be there at a certain time. That alone was enough pressure to be like, show up. You just have to show up and do this. It's, it'd be irresponsible to not do that.
Yeah.
So I just treated it like a job. Like, oh, I have to show up. I have to study. People are waiting to hang out and study with me. I don't want to let anybody down, and I want to be accountable for what I'm doing.
You know what's funny?
What?
That's actually something that's like a tip people use to stop smoking. Like if you're like, I'm going to stop smoking, first you make your decision and then tell people you're going to do it so other people can hold you accountable. And then like,
Yeah. I mean, but
a couple other things.
I feel like that'd be hard because at least with like like what I said, at least people like actually watching you all day.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you truly have accountability because they're seeing what you're doing during the time you said you'd be doing it. So it's like, as long as you're actually doing it, like that was the big thing. Streaming really helped. And I say that like really to anybody who wants to start like studying a lot and getting disciplined. It's like, make a reason for yourself to get disciplined. Like make an like outside of you thing, like a group or, like I said, a stream or something. Whether it's in Discord or whatever, or you and your friends kind of hold each other accountable for something. But yeah, that's really it. And then I would fall in and out of that, but most of the time I did like all kinds of crazy stuff. I'd yell at myself. Like I'd actually yell at myself.
Some American
I'd
Psycho
go,
stuff.
come on! Like whenever I felt like I wasn't there yet.
Oh my god.
I was out of my mind. So yeah, I felt a lot of pressure from myself to do something, and I got disciplined quick. And then there was probably like a 8 years, a good 8 years in the beginning where if I didn't stick to the routine, it'd be easy for me to fall off. Where I'd be like, ugh, like I don't want to study, like this sucks. Like getting back into that would just burn me out and feel like shit. But as long as I didn't stop, I never really fell out of that. And now I'm so used to working the way that I work that I never fall out of that routine. So I'm always okay. Like I could always just get started on something and be right back into it.
And because you've been doing it for so long, it's like, like you said, like you can get right back into it. It's like riding a bike metaphor.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's like getting on a bike again. Like
discipline.
You may have been away from a while, but you can always get back to it fairly easily.
Yeah, that discipline never really goes away.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I understand like how much time and effort it'll take to do something, I can do it. Like if I plan it out, it's like working on a huge book, like Dan's in the chat, like when we were working on the first 2 Steve Lichman books, those are huge books, like 400 plus pages on the second one, 252 on the first one. It's like, to do that, you just schedule everything, and you have a schedule that you can kind of depend on. You need to add a certain chunk of time that things can go wrong on, but as long as you're realistic about your work goals and you kind of know where you're headed, you can plan for, how long something's going to take you. If you're feeling like, I can't just sit there for 14 hours. It's like, well, okay, maybe you can't do 14 hours. If you have something you want to do and you know how quick you are at certain things, give yourself a little project and then timeline it out. How long will it take you to get that done? It's like, maybe studying is too abstract for you. It doesn't feel like something you can measure. So maybe you need to be like, oh, I'm going to make a comic that's realistic. It has no words. It's just an action thing where I do fight choreography for X amount of pages. And then just set that as a goal. And by the time you're done with that, you will have studied so much anatomy and form and perspective and different shots and whatnot. And you will have gotten better at a new thing you might have not have considered before. And you will have just been doing the hard stuff of studying. Mm-hmm. Same thing with, I used to try and give myself little things to study that would kind of, it was more like tricking myself into studying. So you do a thing where, like, let's say there's a Jackie Chan gif from a movie and it's a fight scene, right? And you're looking at the anatomy going. You can take that animation and look at it in Photoshop frame by frame. You can just open it up. And then you could literally from that do gestures of each frame on a separate layer on a new file, and then from there just make your own animation and play back to see how close you were and how accurate you were. It's a fun way to do a bunch of gesture drawings or anatomy drawings, and it doesn't feel like studying. Sometimes that sort of thing would help me. If I could trick myself into doing hard work by doing something that was kind of enjoyable at the same time, then that would be nice.
And this is like full circle because it comes back to like education, right?
Yeah.
You know how you learn now and you can apply it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's like once you kind of get an idea of what you're comfortable doing, you can start to lean into ways to leverage that and be like, oh, maybe I just don't like studying a certain way. I can be more creative than that and just find something else.
Yes. Yes, we have a Discord. It is exclusive to Patreon members, and we do fun things there. Lots of little channels in there where people have like studies and they share inspiration and
shit posts,
secrets, wit stuff. Then we do our monthly challenges that we're trying to keep up with. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. People do like they'll do study channels. I changed it so it's not press to talk anymore, so they could just like talk in there. So that's something that people do.
Yeah, I got the voice channels.
Yeah, Dan says that I got emotional after you asked me, and I remembered all my plates were from my grandma's house, and they broke in the move, and I just repressed them falling down the stairs, and you thought I was lying, though. I don't know if I thought you were lying. Maybe I thought you were joking. I would never be like, you're lying, Dan. Why would you lie about something like that?
Look at this asshole.
What?
Bullshitting his way through this.
What?
No, saying Dan.
Oh, me saying that about Dan?
Here's Dan's dad joke.
Mm-hmm.
The town told my dad he couldn't add a boat launch to his property, and he asked me if he should anyway. So I said, don't give in to peer pressure. But my dad's too dumb, so he just left.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Pretty good.
That is a good one. A couple people came back. Riley Easter came back. A couple people are joining us, but we're probably
we're probably wrapping up now. I'm just like a little, like I could keep going on this, but I just need to do something else for a minute because this is too much.
Yeah.
It's too much detailing. We've been on for 3 hours.
Yeah, and you can resubmit until the 30th. We'll do the stream the next day. Sorry, I'm just trying to wrap up the last couple questions.
Riley wants to let everybody know, because he's an active member in the Discord, that semen retention group on the Discord is up to 5 members, and it's going really well. So if you all want to practice your semen
I
retention.
posted that Channel 5 thing. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
the guy who's like
Yeah. That
on
was
there.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. If you want to support, it's patreon.com/Dave Raposa, and I have 100+ hours of videos. It's $5, like tutorials, full PSDs you can download,
Yes.
tons of brushes,
If that doesn't interest
over
you,
2 years of stuff.
there's also in print. You can support
Yeah.
us by buying prints.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do fun stuff.
Yeah, and the next stream will be this upcoming Thursday.
Also, for anyone who's, you know, a planner, likes to look ahead, December is going to be a Mousetrap month. Which day, we don't know yet, but it will be a special stream for Mousetrap.
Yeah, we'll be doing that. But yeah, thanks for hanging